You're listening to the Epically Geeky Show, a place for all things geeky.
Epically Geeky Show, the last Jedi discussion. It is a time of turmoil for the fandom. The previous two movies, released by Disney after acquiring the license, have further split the fans. There are more than just two factions now, the prequel haters and the apologist. The newest entry in the Star Wars saga is possibly the last time our princess, Carrie Fisher, might be seen on screen. Leading up to the release, critics have heralded it as the best episode since the original sequel, but countless tweets, Facebook posts, and YouTube reviews say otherwise. In a far corner of the galaxy, a small group of podcasters gathered to discuss their thoughts on the film. Led by their host, Eugene Stevens, they have come together in an attempt to foster goodwill and help heal some of the pain of the fandom.
A small group. Thank you, Eugene. First of all, I would like to say that my opinions are much larger than what you have proclaimed.
Welcome out to the Epically Geeky Show, ladies and gentlemen. As you've probably guessed, this is our now yearly special episode where we talk about probably the biggest movie of almost every year going forward, and that would be the newest Star Wars movie. We don't have an opening question like normal. We're going to skip that and go right on into the main thing. But before we do that, let me make sure I introduce my co-host for the evening. From across the Canadian border, we have the smuggler, Ray Andrew. We have the leader of the resistance, General Jennifer Hetzel. And we have Commander Cyrus Martin, or is it Captain now? I'm not sure.
Darth Martin.
How is everyone?
Excellent.
Great.
Me.
All right.
Me.
So,
that's the shortest answer you've ever given, man.
I know, right? Before the show, I went ahead and told everyone. I said, "Look, I went and saw the movie. We'll talk about that here in a second. For the second time this morning, and there were lots of things I was trying to keep straight in my head, including the order in which all of the events of the movie happen. And there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie. So I'm going to go ahead and apologize right now. If I switch up some orders, please either just go with it or let me know either way.
Also, you should also apologize for the audio and video delay issues, which continue to persist as you're being told in the chat room even now.
Yeah, I just messaged them.
So what do I need to change?
You need to.
We're not doing this right now.
You need to not use a Mac. That's what the problem is, and you know it, girlfriend.
We'll have to do some more tests.
I will not go to the dark side. All right, so I have to deal with that shit at work.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for your help.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Again, Eugene, you could probably jump in any time you want to thank him for telling us about the problem. That's okay.
So, with every bullet. Oh. So, okay, well, I guess we'll start off with this. When did you see The Last Jedi, and how many times have you seen it up to this point? Cyrus?
I saw it at 6 p.m. Thursday. I've only seen it once.
Okay. Ray?
So we were delayed in our showing because we had so many other things going on. It's that time of year. So we just saw it Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay. Jennifer?
I saw it Thursday at 7 and Saturday at 11:30. So
show off.
Yeah. You know.
I saw it at the same time, actually the same showing as Jennifer, 7 o'clock on opening night, Thursday night. And then I went and saw it this morning. I was almost halfway expecting Jennifer to go. I saw it Thursday night, and I saw it yesterday at 1 o'clock. I saw it this morning. Saying she had seen it a third time, but I wasn't quite sure. So.
Oh, just twice.
It is twice, just twice. So
I do have plans on seeing it at least one more time, and there's probably going to be a third in there somewhere too. And
there's at least going to be a third in my near future. My mom wants to go see it, and Lainey wants to go see it. She was going to go with me today, but got busy and never got back to me. And so when I woke up this morning, I pulled up the app on my phone. And I was like, let's see let's see. There's a seat that's okay on the 9:45. Let's see, 11. Nope. 3. Nope. Nope. They're all sold out. Nope. I'm not doing this. So I basically just kind of packed up and went to the movie theater. So, but yeah, so I'm probably going to go see it with her maybe in the next couple of days, and I'll may go with my mom or something. So we shall see. So, with that said, I'm like giddy. I'm very interested to see what everyone's thoughts and opinions are on this. So, I guess let's just go ahead and start by, were you, knowing the stuff that you knew when going into the movie, were you excited? Did you have high hopes for the movie? Were you trying to limit your expectations? And with that, were they met or exceeded? Cyrus?
Well, I tend to... Okay, last year we had one of the worst Star Wars movies ever made, probably the worst. An abomination that almost ruined Star Wars for me. Like, actually so bad that I actually wasn't as excited about Star Wars as I usually am. In fact, I actually gotten to a point where I almost didn't care that much until I saw the trailer for this movie and I started to get excited again. So my expectations were very tempered. I was actually going into this movie going, you know what? I think it's going to be good. I've heard reviews and I've seen some things, and I've gotten good information from sources that I think are probably credible that this movie's probably pretty good. But I heard some shit like that when I went and saw Rogue One, which turned out to be a dumpster fire, the likes of which mankind has never experienced before on Earth. So I was like a little bit on the fence. So what else were you asking me besides like what my expectations?
Did it meet or exceed your expectations?
That's a complicated question.
Oh, okay. You can leave it at that.
And I will.
All right. Ray.
So going into that, I really tried to stay away from the theories. I really tried to stay away from all the trailers. I really tried to stay away from a lot of that stuff. So walking in, I tried to limit my expectations. However, I think they were high.
Uh-huh.
And then, yeah, it's a complicated answer of whether they met that expectation or not.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure that they met my full expectations.
Okay. So. Jennifer.
Kind of the same as Ray. I tended to avoid the rumors and all the internet, articles and theories, because I just get down those rabbit holes and then it drives me nuts. So I did watch the trailer. I did get excited from the trailer, and I was a little skeptical because episode 7 was not exactly what I had hoped for, but it was still pretty good. And then, coming into this movie, I feel like was a lot better. I liked where the story went and actually exceeded what I expected. So I would say yes, I was very pleasantly surprised with this one.
I too, like, after the last, I guess the big trailer that came out, I saw it and I was just like, I'm done. I don't need to see any more. I'm sold. I was trying to stay away from like the television. Yeah, we'll get to that side. I was trying to stay away from like the television ads and stuff like that, because I didn't need to see anything else. I saw what I wanted to see, and I didn't want a bunch of other stuff to possibly, get ruined or anything like that. So I was trying to avoid that. I always try to avoid the fan theories and stuff like that. There was a shirt that has been around for a while, and I've man, I've hovered over the buy button. I don't know how many times. The one that says your Snoke theory sucks. And I thought, well, I probably only could wear it until, until this movie came out. And I'm kind of changed my opinion on that. I'm really kind of thinking about seeing if I can find it cheap and buying it anyway. And I'll get to that in a bit. As for my expectations, I've been so busy at work. It really had not hit me until Thursday. And then Thursday, I tried to stay pretty even keel, but it was hard not to go, all right, today's it. Like, I get to go see a new Star Wars today, and good, bad, or indifferent, it's Star Wars Day, and it's awesome. So, needless to say, when I walked out of the theater, I was extremely pleased. There's a lot, like I said before, there's a lot going on in this movie, and it definitely took a lot of thinking to kind of sort out some of those thoughts. And going to see the movie again today definitely helped clarify some of my thoughts and feelings on it. So, really? Anyway, I don't know why it's dropping. You know why? It's probably because there's someone streaming stuff here in the other room. But anyway, I won't go with that. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just, like I said, I apologize ahead of time if we, if I mix something around or, get some of the order incorrect or whatever. So, but let's just go ahead and get started. So, Kylo Ren says your parent, no, I'm sorry. I kind of skipped ahead. My bad. That was a joke. All right. So we start off the movie, traditional scroll, and, we have, opening in space, and it pans down to, the rebels. I'm sorry, Resistance. My apologies. What?
You should say spoiler alert, by the way. Just
yes. I guess I didn't technically say that. If you have not seen Star Wars: The Last Jedi yet,
get the fuck out.
Get the hell out of here. Like you're way too far in. So anyway, movie opens up and we're seeing the Resistance trying to get off of their base that they were, in the previous movie. Then the First Order shows up. General Hux is in command and tells them to, he calls in the Dreadnought, which is a new ship that we have not seen yet. Basically their battle fortified, Star Destroyer, and tells them to go and start charging up to start firing on the base. It's at this point we see a single lone X-wing show up in front of the Dreadnought, and it's our boy Poe. And at this point we get something that is definitely a tone for the rest of the movie, in that we get in my opinion, really fucking funny scene.
I think it's a little too much. I think the opening comedy there was a little too much. I understand why they did it, because if you're going to do it right now. And then the rest of the movie, the humor will be less, it'll be easier for people to digest. Mm-hmm. But I think it was a little bit too much. It was a little Spaceballs.
Not quite. But I don't know what you're talking about, Si.
I thought it set a really good tone for the rest of the movie, because I'm like, okay, so we're definitely going to have a little more over the top.
What I want to say is my reaction watching the movie to that moment is different than my thinking about it after seeing the movie.
Okay.
Like, there's so much to say here. Because if you go through the movie and react to each individual thing that happens, this movie was designed to subvert all of that. It was designed for you to be. This was Pulp Fiction. This was a movie that makes you uncomfortable, that challenges you to see at least this type of movie, in a different way. And in the end, like, first time I saw Pulp Fiction, I hated it. I despised Pulp Fiction. I've told you this before.
Me too, and I still do. But anyway, go on.
You still really? Okay. Well, anyway, maybe it's a bad analogy for you, but
he hates Tarantino.
It challenged your perspective on what a movie was supposed to be, on how a movie could be made, on what the structure of a movie could be, on what the pacing of a movie could be, actually. And in the end, you start to ask yourself, wow, can something be different and be good? Can it not be what I was expecting? And is that better? Is it better? Which I think is the whole point of the movie. In fact, I think the trailer was a tutorial on how to watch this movie, which is basically like throw away everything that you think, start fresh, and let yourself experience magic again. So that's my point. Is my reaction to each individual moment watching the movie is different than thinking about it after having seen the movie, is all I'm trying to say.
Okay, I got you. Okay, fair enough. So I will
say that the thing that I liked about that opening as well was you could see how Poe was getting really cocky as well, and he no matter what cost he was fighting, and I liked how he had to actually see what he cost them, right? Like it was because they lost the entire bomber fleet and all that shit, and for what? Okay, they destroyed one ship, so what? That's one ship. So it was good to see that Leia called him out on that and being like, hey, yeah, you might be the greatest fighter that we've got, but damn it, you really fucked up right now. So
when he had to learn a lot throughout the whole movie, and I think it was good that he wasn't just glorified the whole time. It was like he was a really cool character in the last movie. He did great things, but he's not perfect.
Oh yeah,
and we have.
Are you drinking vodka out of that bottle? Is that what that is?
I wish.
I was like, damn, right? Just like.
So I was like, hold on, let me go get the Glenmorangie.
Scotland.
God no. Okay, yeah. So I guess so let me back up here. I was going to kind of take this kind of scene by scene because I think it's important to the way the movie plays. But it sounds like y'all kind of want to talk about some of the overarching themes as we hit it. And we can do that. That's fine. And so I'm not trying to, and I just want to realize I'm not trying to downplay that, but I want to kind of back up and kind of keep going through it. So,
I fear that if we go scene by scene, that this is going to be as long as the movie or longer. So
yeah,
well, it could be, but yeah. So we have the funny. We have
5.
Yeah. So we have the scene with Poe and Hux. I thought I really enjoyed it. We see him charging up, and then he basically goes in and knocks out the defenses for the dreadnought, and then we get the bombers come in. We get the whole scene with, and of course that's at the point where Leia tells him, and like y'all have mentioned, this is the first point where Leia's like, okay, you got the job done, let's get out of here, and he's like, no, we need to push. This is our chance to get a dreadnought, and I stress that a dreadnought.
Yep.
Because I think that's important for later on in the movie. And so they go in, there's a scene where, it's like almost are they going to make it? Are they going to not? And they taking the thing out. Resistance ends up, hitting light speed. Well, not light speed, but hyperspeed and gets away. And as soon as they come out, that's when Leia lays the smack down. And like y'all said, she specifically tells Poe, you are a very good.
I just imagine Carrie Fisher doing a wrestling move on somebody. He's in laser smack.
Just walks out like backhands. I mean, she did smack him, but she didn't quite like just backhand the shit out of him. Right?
Just diving off the top rope.
Drops the people's elbow on him. But so she basically tells him, look, you're a good pilot, you're a great warrior, but you suck as a leader, and you've got to learn, to get to that next level, you've got to learn to become a leader.
And we
also
need the leaders for the future movies because they're all
Right.
fucking dying.
Yes. And we already start to get that idea that, you know, this is it for the resistance. Like, this is whatever we get off the planet, that's it. So, you know, we gotta be careful. At this point, you know, once they jump, it cuts back to the main ship, and they're like, Commander Hux, Snoke is on the line. He wants to talk to you, and he's like, oh, okay, I'll take it in my quarters. And Snoke basically bloodies his nose, and is like, and is, you know, he basically tells him, why did you fail me? And it's very original trilogy. It's very, you know, you fucked up. You're about to, and the only reason he's able to save himself is he makes that comment, we have them on a string. And it's like, okay, what's going on there?
So, but that being said, when that scene happened, yes, it was the old school version, right? Like, it was definitely the original series feel, but it was amped up because he is doing the force, you know, he's using the force from that distance to push him down onto the floor, drag him across, and use him as a rag doll. So that was awesome to see how far of a distance he was, and like, he's not even there, right? Like, I just like that.
Yeah, that's
knocked down a lot, that movie. This movie.
It's interesting how these new movies are trying to change what we think we know about the Force, you know, like what we think the Force is and how it works, you know. It's interesting.
They got away from midichlorians.
Well,
yeah.
No one ever. There was one person on the planet thought that. Everyone else has no. But remember, Vader choked out commanders from, you know,
that's true,
great distances as well. In the second one, remember, he just straight chokes out the guy, you know, from the other ship. But you're right, Sai. That is something that I've read about, and one of the best things I read about it was, you know, there are a lot of people that are like, well, that's the first time we've ever seen that. And he's like, I don't want to live in the universe where we know all of everything that the Force can do. Like, we saw different combinations, and it taken to the extreme in the prequels, because it's like, oh, hey, he's got a lightsaber and he can push and pull things, and they combine those abilities, and we got some really cool fight scenes and stuff out of it. And now we're getting, oh, hey, guess what? You can also do these things as well.
Well, I know they're not canon, but the books went into that a lot more too.
Exactly, yeah.
Like,
and
they could even talk about how they could heal, and, you know, just crazy things. Really semi-scientific. If you really,
and I like that they're borrowing some of the ideas of those, but not using
absolutely.
So, which is good.
We then get the scene where Snoke is he's talking to Hux, and basically Hux has saved his life. He's like, you know, listen, we're able to track them through hyperspace. We can track them. They're not getting away. And ends up walking out with that shit-eating grin that he always has when he encounters Kylo Ren. And I thought that was an interesting scene the first time. The first time I saw it, it didn't really hit me very well. And the second time I watched it this morning, it definitely sank in better. When Kylo Ren walks in, Snow goes on this long, like, exposition about, when I found you, you were this, and you were raw power, and I have molded you into, you know, this, that, and the other. And I thought, is this in here for someone who hasn't seen the previous movie? Like, is this their way to kind of introduce him again? And then it hits to me, because the very next line he says is, and you have failed miserably. You have not lived up to anything that I thought you were going to be. And when he, like, pisses him off and he actually does raise up, that's when he, like, you know, well, first off, he hits him with the Force lightning, knocks him back. And when he does act like he's going to rise up, that's when Snoke's guards, like, come to high form. And he tells him, you are a child with a mask. Yep. And basically just belittles the shit out of him.
I love that he tells him to take that mask off too.
Yes.
He just so stupid.
Take that ridiculous thing off. Because then we get that scene of him in the elevator where he destroys the mask. And I don't know, 50-50, I'm guessing we don't see the mask anymore. Like, I think here on out, Kylo Ren does not have the mask.
No, so, it's gone.
It was a very pivotal moment. Like, it's hard for me to talk about this movie as it happens when I want to talk about, like, you know,
the over, yeah.
It's like, okay, but, like, all I'm saying, okay, so no, you won't see the mask anymore. This was his watershed moment. This was his moment where he realized once and for all that Snoke was going to kill him, that he was being used. I mean, he knew it, but now he realized the timeline was much shorter than he had figured. So what's interesting. Okay, so what's interesting about Snoke is, as powerful as Snoke is, as awesome with his Force abilities as Snoke is, he's blind by his own arrogance. You know, he's fixated in such a way where he's not paying attention to what's really going on in Kylo's mind. Kylo is obviously tricking him into thinking that he's just a lackey, that everything's cool. When Kylo behind the scenes, every chance he gets, he's talking to Rey about, what does he say in the end of the first movie? You need someone to train you, you need, all this kind of stuff. He's talking about killing Snoke. And when Han tells him that, Snoke's going to, use you up and discard you or whatever, he's not surprised by this. This was Kylo throwing away this. He's like, you know what? Time to fucking get shit done. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to be Darth Vader. I'm going to be something else. And that's what this was. Time to be. Exactly. Time to be something else.
Yeah. So at this point, the First Order shows up. They begin attacking the Resistance, and they start taking out their ships. Kylo Ren jumps in his ship, starts tearing shit up. Shows off that he's a badass pilot. From his bloodline, he should be. I mean, he's not only a fucking Skywalker, he's also a Solo. So he should be able to pilot a ship like no one's business, and he does. But he hesitates. He does. He blows up the hangar bay so that Poe and a lot of the other fighters can't even get out into the battle. And he hesitates from killing Leia. He can sense it. There's a moment where they obviously are sensing one another, and he hesitates. He does not, pull the trigger, literally. But the two TIE fighters next to him do. Right before that, they come up with a plan that they figure out that they've been tracked through hyperspace. They cannot escape through hyperspace. All they can do is they can try to stay just far enough out of the First Order's reach
that their main weapons don't affect them.
So that their main weapons exactly don't have that much of a thing until they hopefully figure out something else. Yeah. And it's at this point that the blast hits the bridge, and we see Carrie Fisher take a deep breath, and she is sucked out into space. And I'm just like, damn. Okay, so this is it. This is how our princess is gone. I knew this was going to happen. I'm okay with it.
My daughter was crying at this point. Like
yes, and I understand why. I know Lainey's going to be, even though I went ahead and I told her, she's like, am I going to be able to watch this movie? I'm like, do you want me to spoil something for you? She goes, yes. I don't care about spoilers. I said, okay. Princess Leia lives. And she's like, okay, I can go watch this movie now. But yeah, so we get that scene, and I'm just like, okay, well, this is how it ends. She went out as a general. She was commanding and trying to save her group or whatever. And then once again, we get something that I read a lot of people apparently have not liked online, where she is able to use the Force and pull herself back into the ship. She's not in good condition, but she's able to do so.
She finally uses the Force.
Exactly.
See it anyways.
Because up to this point, all we know is she's Force sensitive, and it's like, she's more than just Force sensitive. She has to be.
Yeah, Nick is commenting on this. He says, they don't have a tractor beam, like it's a Force tractor beam or something. Well, I mean, basically, she's in zero gravity, and she used the Force like you would lift a rock, but instead of lifting a rock, you were just moving
Exactly. She pulls herself. Yes.
Yeah. So just to go back to this chase scene, I don't know if everybody else saw the meme, but the chase scene, they say this new Star Wars chase scene is like this scene, and it was a picture of a white Ford being chased by a bunch of police. That was funny.
Oh, okay. He's talking about. You remember? He's talking about tractor beam. Like you remember in A New Hope when they locked onto the ship with a tractor beam and pulled it inside. Like, why didn't they do that with these other ships? But these are huge ships.
Yeah.
With big engines. Old tech. Those tractor beams are obsolete, you know. They don't make them anymore, you know.
They didn't work anyway.
It's at this point we were introduced to a new character, and it's Commander Holdo, and she's put in charge of what's left of the Resistance, and she's basically like, we can't escape, we can't jump to hyperspace, we can't, basically all we can do is just keep going. And Poe comes up and says, hey, I'm Poe Dameron, kind of a hero. What's the plan? And she basically just shuts him down, puts him in his place, and just like, just do what I tell you, and things will be fine. And that doesn't sit well with Poe. Some of the criticism.
Did anybody else just wait for her to scream Alan and run from raptors?
No.
That's what I was waiting for. Sorry, seeing her in the movie just threw me off because I'm like, that's Jurassic Park. But anyway.
That's hilarious, actually. Okay, so this is some of the criticism. This is one of the biggest criticisms, and you kind of brought this up. I was specifically listening for this part in the movie. They specifically said, "Why can because they're like, why can we not get close?" And they said, "Sir, those ships are smaller and faster than our ships. We cannot outrun them." To which, of course, the internet in their infinite wisdom was like, well, why didn't they just jump to light speed in front of them? And my thought is, okay, you can track another ship through light space. Apparently you can track them through hyperspace. Do you gamble jumping into hyperspace to get in front of the enemy and have them jump into hyperspace at the same time you do and then lose them?
They were only talking about using one or two ships and sending them ahead, and then
I think this is a good example of the reason that we have such polarized opinions about this movie.
Yeah,
right.
This is a microcosm of the bigger problem.
Right, and that is not even the true answer for me. Okay, the true answer is this is Star Wars, and Snoke is the one in charge of how all this is going down. And just like with all of the other bad guys in Star Wars, it's not enough to simply defeat your enemies. You must crush them, not only them physically, but their spirit. So, yeah, sure, I guess they could have, jumped a couple of ships in front of them and cut them off at the pass. But what is better than to just slowly let them bleed themselves dry?
Can I just say something real quick?
Go on.
Okay, so one of the criticisms that's being discussed in the chat room, it's something that we're talking about now, is how there's all these convenient plot devices. There's like these, oh well, all this this explains that, and this gets them out of that, and da 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 da. Okay, go back to the original Star Wars. You want to talk about convenient? The droids happen to land. They. In a walkable distance from a place where they'll happen to get picked up by the what are they called, the Jawas, right? Mm-hmm. And then happen to get bought by
the next buyer, which happens to be Ben. Right. Yeah.
Come on.
Everything in Star Wars is based off of stupid coincidences. That's just their thing.
That's all anything ever is.
So can we just say that the coincidences are the Force in
Oh no, you did.
Way.
No.
Yes, he did, and because I've seen that argument too. What had happened if that other droid did not have a bad motivator? The whole thing would have just gone to shit, right?
Yeah. What would have happened if when R2 and C3PO ejected and the gun turns towards it, the guy
Exactly.
says, he doesn't say hold your fire, there's no life forms aboard, they just shot it.
Exactly.
Movie's
Too
over.
many chances for
And Seth MacFarlane even pointed that out in the Family Guy versions. They're like, "What? Is there a premium on Laser Blast? What? Why? Why are we saving a shot? Just blow the thing up."
I mean, I understand that it's annoying to people because they see a situation where they go, "Well, that's awfully convenient," because people have expectations. They're like, "Well, why is that happening? I don't understand why that's when I think it makes more sense if da 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 da." Right?
Go on.
So that's the whole problem. That's the whole thing Rian Johnson's trying to do here is to stop you from thinking that that's what Star Wars has to be. It doesn't have to be, oh, I know all the lore and I've studied this and this and this and I've seen what happens here and here and here. And, can't you let the movie happen? Can't you just see with child's eyes a movie about magic shit? Because
apparently not.
It's Star Wars. It's magic shit in space.
See, and so since we're on the topic anyway, and that's something that I was trying to prevent myself from doing, as well as just Chris is great at just watching a movie and getting sucked in, and I'm always like, okay, where's this going? Where's this leading? And I'm always looking for other things. And I'll explain that later on in one of the final fights. But so what I think has happened is with the length of time that we've had for these movies to come out, as well as for, in between each episode right now, like now we're going to be all these ideas of what's going to happen in episode 9. You're going to have a bunch of people that are buying into ideas that they really like, and they come up with these stories. It's like fan fiction. They've got these stories that they really love, and it's their own creation, and this is how they want it to go, and this is how they think that it should go. And when they see somebody else's version of it, they're like, what the fuck are you doing? You've ruined it. And they haven't. They've just told their version of it. And so if you really don't like the movie, go write some fan fiction and enjoy it that way.
Let me say another thing. Luke is a good example of how people they think like they know Luke, right? They think in their mind, they've imagined for their whole life who Luke should be and how Luke should react to situations and what Luke is all about and blah, 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 blah. And you forget about what his character really was like, right? Because you imagine what he went on. Oh, well, he must have been this great Jedi master who he's going to be way more powerful than any Jedi that's ever come before. And he's going to be the most badass and blah, 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 blah. Well, maybe, but Luke made a lot of mistakes. And Yoda tells Luke in Empire Strikes Back, when Luke says, I'm not afraid, he says, you will be.
You should be. Yeah.
Yeah. And
you will be. Yeah.
Yoda's, in a lot of ways, seeing right through this veneer.
Yeah.
Luke's just a guy. He's a guy trying. And he makes mistakes. And even Mark Hamill didn't 100% agree with this take on Luke. I understand that. But the point is, heroes are not infallible. They're not these like statues, heroes are people. And Luke was a guy, and yes, he was heroic and he did a lot of awesome stuff. And he tried to do the right thing, but he wasn't perfect. He made a lot of mistakes. And, apparently obviously caused things to kind of go wrong here. But a lot of people have reacted to all of this as though this wasn't what I wanted. And so I hate it, and I'm like, look, man, life is like that. And movies are like that. Things are not. And okay, let me kind of get to what I'm really trying to say here. Like the first Star Wars was it's what it was by itself. Okay. There was no imaginary history that we had all decided upon with Star Wars, right? Star Wars became more of that after after Empire Strikes Back. Like the first Star Wars, like Darth Vader was just this bad guy that, you know, he had this history, you know, we thought he killed Luke's dad and all this kind of stuff, but he was just a big bad guy. This complexity of all this stuff happened as we progressed into Star Wars, and the lore and everything built and sort of went on to be what it was. But the first Star Wars was, you know, Flash Gordon in space with magic.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Rian Johnson's trying to get us back to, is to say, hey, let's strip everything away and see what Star Wars really is at its core, if it's not depending on all this, like, this pile of collected stuff that everybody needs to know so they can feel like they're real Star Wars fans. So that's what I've never liked about nerds. Okay. Like, I understand we all love Star Wars, or not everyone does, but a lot of people love Star Wars. But I don't like the people who basically try to like make Star Wars into this elite club of I know everything and you don't. And you know what I'm trying to say?
Yep.
And sometimes, and the people who've gotten the most pissed about this movie are the people who felt like they knew Star Wars the best, are the people who felt like they had read all the stuff and they studied all the things and they had the book with the schematics on how to build a Death Star in their backyard. And, you know, they had done a full psychological breakdown of Luke Skywalker as their college thesis and, you know, all this kind of stuff. Those are the people who are most pissed because they felt like they knew more and they understood more. And when the rules are changed and we can see it for what it was supposed to be in the beginning, when we can see it for the core and not just this layer after layer after layer after layer of stuff that's been added. And a lot of it, I mean, come on, there's no sanctity here. George Lucas didn't even come up with most of the shit that Star Wars became.
Yeah.
You know, they would bring out all these like posters and palettes and all kinds of shit and pile it up, and he would point at stuff and go, I like that, I like that, I like that, I like that. All shit made up by 1,500 different people. He cobbled together Star Wars based on watching old samurai movies and World War II movies and Flash Gordon episodes. There's no sanctity here. This stuff is, it's just a movie. It's just entertainment. And I really like the idea of stepping in and saying, hey, let go of all these like things that you think are like, well, I can't like the new Star Wars because it's not exactly like I imagined. And I can't like the new Star Wars because it contradicts this one thing that I saw in this one comic book that, and this cartoon that now is canon. Now the cartoons are canon and they're canon. I can't stand that shit. Like, it's just entertainment, and it's a fairy tale.
So, okay. So just to go along with that though, and cell processing brought it up, and I agree with him. This is something that I did struggle with the new movie. The chase scene was slow. It was slow as molasses. And I really disliked the part where, like, I like that Maz comes in and we have the Maz Kanata. Like, I like that part because you show that she's a badass.
Mm-hmm.
But it felt strange for me to have, those. We have the chase scene going on, and then we have Finn and the other character,
Rose.
They jump to light speed to go off to another planet so that they can go do some stuff.
Oh, you don't even know her name. Jeez, why are you on the ship now playing going?
She's a new character. Fuck off. So, you have that happening, and yeah, okay, light speed's much faster. I get it, blah, blah, blah. But there's time dilation, and there's other things that occur, and so the chase scene didn't work for me in that way because of it. It was slow as molasses for that part. That being said, I let it go, and I enjoyed the movie for what it was. But that particular part for me was a hard pill to swallow, just because of, okay, they're chasing and they're firing and they're chasing and they're firing, and I get it, but can we come up with something else for that part. But that's just, again, I'm with Zell on that one, but that's about it.
Like I said, I think the point of the chase was so that it was it was to grind them into salt. Basically, it was, like I said, it wasn't just enough to beat them. It was, and you know, y'all are jumping ahead with ideas and stuff. So I'm just gonna throw this out there.
Yeah,
Look at the scene whenever they capture. No, it's fine. Like I said, it's fine to jump around. Look at the scene whenever they capture Finn and Rose, and they're like, you know, a blaster death is not good enough for you. We're going to decapitate you. We're going to do it old school, and we're going to draw it out for a little bit longer. The Empire always did that. The First Order is going to do the same shit. It's their playbook. We're going to keep doing the same shit. Doesn't matter that we keep getting foiled like every fucking James Bond villain ever. We're going to keep doing it.
I mean,
that's what works.
They did put her into a garbage chute, so I guess
that's actually a very good point. I would probably be a little pissed about that as well. Good point. The next scene, I think, like I said, you know, it kind of got mixed around a little bit, is literally y'all literally just jumped the gun by like one scene, because the next scene, I believe, is when Rey hands Luke the lightsaber, and he looks at it for a second, and then tosses it over his shoulder like, eh.
I love that part.
Okay, now see, that's the thing. Going back to what you and Si are saying, that to me is the definitive scene in the movie, because that is the scene that says, like the article I sent to you, I don't care what you think about Star Wars. Right. This is what Star Wars is. I don't really care what you think about it. And
that was the middle finger to the audience.
I was so happy about that, because going back to that your Snoke theory sucks things, I really kind of want that shirt now, because here's the thing. Inside, both you and Ray have said this. I think the biggest problem that a lot of people have with this movie is, in the 2 years since The Force Awakens came out, their fan theory didn't come true. It was nowhere near it. And not only did the one aspect not come true, oh, well, Snoke is this, Snoke is whatever. Rey is obviously related to someone. This is because of this. Not only was it that, it was, no, all the stuff that came before this is whatever. This is the future. This is where we're going. The stuff that came before it is still kind of important, but meh. So that, like I said, to me, that was a very pivotal part of the movie. Busted out laughing, and so did everyone else in the theater when it happened. But so she follows him, finds the first Jedi temple. We have the whole scene with the books, you know, talking about the books. And he asks her, why did you come? And she's like, well, the First Order sent me. He's like, no, why did you come? Why did Rey from, where are you from? She goes, I'm from nowhere. No one's from nowhere. I'm from Jakku. That's pretty much nowhere. By the way, another great, hilarious scene. And then, you know, he's like, you know, you came here for a reason. Then we kind of cut back. We get to the part where Finn is trying to escape. He encounters Rose. We have the whole thing about her sister dying or whatever. And they come up with the idea for how they're going to get out of this situation. And it's by turning off the tracker for just a few moments so that they can jump to light speed, get out of the way, and get out. But there's a problem. We got to have a slicer. Specifically Slicer. And the reason why I bring that up, and I'm sure Jennifer knows this, is hackers are not hackers in the Star Wars universe. In the books, they are slicers. That's how you get through codes, and that's how you get through stuff. So I was very happy that they used Slicer, not hacker. So they come up with the idea to contact Maz Kanata, which you brought up. That was a funny scene.
I know other people had problems with it, but I like that scene because somebody else threw it out there that she was just playing a video game and just putting on a show, which you know what, even if that's true, I don't care. That was awesome.
Exactly. Even if she was literally just playing Call of Duty but in the Star Wars universe, who the fuck cares, man? That was awesome.
What is the problem people have with that scene? What I don't understand.
Just that how convenient was it to throw Maz, like, oh, Finn met Maz once, and you know, how dare he try and connect with somebody like that? Well, I think it's a great idea. Like,
I thought the problem that people had with it,
1,000 years.
Yeah, I thought the problem that people had with it was, oh, well, she's this, going back to Luke, she's this older, wise person. She's not going to be running around fighting people. Really? Have you not watched Star Wars? Like, literally, the first Star Wars movie is about taking a really old guy who went out in the middle of the desert and telling him, "Hey, I need you to come back to war," and him going, "All right, let me grab this farm boy and let's go." Fucking Star Wars, like, yeah. Anyway, so we cut back.
Made her badass even more.
I thought so too.
Who is she going on about liking? She likes somebody else in that one too.
Oh, she was saying the slicer that they were supposed to go get. She was like, yeah, he can do anything, and they're like,
that was creepy.
That
was creepy right there.
That was kind of funny.
I caught that the second time. That little anything.
Anything, yeah.
Yes.
Which, by the way, and I didn't put this in my notes, but there was a lot more cursing in this movie than in the previous movies. Did anyone else pick up on it?
No.
Damn, bastard. Bastard, I know, was said at least once. Damn was said several times. It just kind of stuck out to me because I was like, okay, so we're using this language now. Cool. That's fine.
Are you wanting Captain America come up and say language?
No. I think the main reason why it hit me is because of the people I was sitting next to. I mean, I don't care one way or the other, but anyway. So we get to the next scene, and once again, we have another very humorous scene. Apparently, Cy thought the first big one was a little much. What was your theory? What was your thought on Chewie eating the porg or trying to eat the porg?
I fucking love that.
I thought it was funny.
It was the perfect way to make me not hate the porgs. Like, it was really good, and it made me like Chewie more too, because Chewie's just like, fuck it, I'm eating these bastards, and he starts to, and they're like, whatever, and he's like, fuck, I want to eat, and then he's like, God, and I imagine
exactly.
I imagine Chewie from then on is just like a vegetarian or something, like he's just like, because he's like, oh, like. I don't know. I think it's like changed Chewie forever. Like, he was scarred by this moment and realized.
I'm like you in that that was one of the things going into this movie I was a little leery about was, okay, well, they've been advertising these cute little thing called porgs and everyone's going crazy for them. And is this going to be the thing that you're like, oh, great, here's the fucking porg. But they never... What? They were literally like in the background. Every so often they'd show up, and usually it was for something kind of humorous, but it was never to me over the top. And like you said, the fact that they were like, oh no, what would you do with a porg? Well, I'd probably fucking roast the thing and eat it.
I thought
he already roasted him.
That was the funny thing, yeah.
You guys didn't touch on it yet, but they finally explained what the green milk was, and why you were okay to drink it. That's what Luke's been.
Oh yeah.
That was so nasty. But the way Luke was just like,
that look, he just like gives her a quick wink. He's like, "Yep."
It
was great. I love Mark Hamill. Had so many Mark Hamill moments in this movie. Oh, yeah. Not Luke moments, like Mark Hamill moments.
It's also at this scene where Luke, goes on the Falcon and is just kind of looking around, and he runs into R2, and this is his turning moment because he's like, I wish I could convince you, old friend, I am not coming back. Why would I come back? And then R2 played, and I thought that was beautifully done. That he played, the original video of Leia, and then of course I like how he looks at me. He goes, "That was a low blow."
Yep,
cheap trick.
That's low.
But very like I was like, okay, that's perfect because that's exactly what I would do. I'd be like, well, Princess is looking for help.
It was perfect. It was perfect because you didn't expect it, even though you probably should have, but we didn't. And
exactly.
It was great.
Well, and the other part was, R2's a sassy little.
Oh yeah, because he tells him watch the language.
Oh, by the way, I saw Ryan Johnson had been interviewed, and they asked him how come nobody in the movie says I have a bad feeling about this, but apparently BB-8 does say it. There's a scene in the movie where if you translate BB-8 stuff, they have a way you can do that.
Really?
He says it in the movie. Yeah.
Oh,
I was
that's
gonna
good.
say, did that happen? Because I didn't pick up on it, but
I was gonna say I didn't either. I was gonna say because
Yeah.
Han wasn't in the movie, then why would someone say it? But yeah, so
Well, they've said it in every Star Wars
Droids
movie.
I know they have, but I thought, well, now that Han's gone, maybe we're gonna retire that. But I kind of like that. That's actually kind of awesome. So,
You
So-
could never wipe R2's memory. It's part of him. Sorry, born
yeah, there's
distracted.
too much
but
shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we get a new thing where Rey and Kylo Ren are able to communicate with each other. They're not able to see their surroundings. They're able to just like see each other. And the scene played very well for me. I almost wonder if some people were confused about it because we get the we get that they see each other basically across the way from each other and react to each other, but we never actually see that. I almost thought, watching it the second time, I wonder if maybe they should have had a part where it's Kylo and we pan over and we see Rey sitting on the medical thing, aside from him, or where she's sitting there and pans across the hut she's in and see him sitting there. It becomes very clear. There's another scene where we actually see that later on, but I almost wondered, going back and watching it the second time, I wonder if maybe not as intelligent people, maybe didn't quite pick up on that.
I thought it was edited all right, though. I thought there was pretty
I thought the editing on that was fine. Yes,
You know what? I really liked that they did that the way they did, because
I did too. But
one of the things that I think is missing from so much of movies and entertainment in general is we don't let people use their imagination anymore. Like we're scared to let people. We're scared to trust that somebody has an imagination. When we were kids, that was like use your imagination all the time. Like people expected you. Oh, you're gonna play Atari. You better use your imagination, otherwise it's just little blops. And but like today, it's like we're scared to. Oh, we can't trust that they might be able to put two and two together here. Like, no, I think people can use their imagination a little bit. So I actually thought that was really, I like the way they did it, because you're sitting there trying to like discern what they might be seeing or feeling or experiencing in those moments where they're connected or whatever,
he says, I can see you. I can't see where you're at, though. So it was, to me, that was very clear. I'm like you, Si. I'm glad they did it the way they did it. Like I said, just in retrospect, I wonder if some people didn't quite pick up on that. So,
just throwing it out there, can we discuss a bit of that, or
what do you mean?
Because the only other people that they show being able to do that is Luke and Leia.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Vader and Luke did that. And trying to think, was there any other situation? No.
So what I mean by that is I know, so it just raises the question of whether Kylo is lying to Rey about her parentage and all that, but that's later on. So,
okay, so Luke decides he's going to teach her. In fact, that's what he's going. He kind of like catches her in the middle of that and says, I will teach you 3 lessons the next day. Real quick, going back on something you were talking about, Rey. I still think the way that the running down of the resistance by the First Order, I think I like the way that was done. I think it works, whatever. But one of the things I noticed in the first time watching it and the second time, I think I've kind of resolved it a little bit for myself, is the time just seems kind of really compressed. Like we keep saying, like we're told we have 18 hours left of fuel. I can see all the stuff that happens to Rose and Finn happening in that time period, but all the stuff that happens between Luke and Rey had to have happened before this movie started. Some of it had to have happened before this movie started.
Oh yeah.
And it just is getting caught up to that point. And to me, that was a little bit of a weird time dilation, if you know what I mean. Not enough to like really throw me or anything. It just kind of stuck out. And normally shit like that doesn't stick out to me. But the first lesson. Oh, I'm sorry, go on.
I was going to say, yeah, the timelines obviously can't match up at all. Like when you're jumping from scene to scene, there's no way that some of the stuff that's happening with Luke and Rey are happening at the same time, as even though it kind of shows that it is.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just the way the movies ended together, and yeah, so.
And then you can get into the whole time dilation, where time is going faster for people that are driving that.
Also,
exactly, because then Han Solo ends up being the oldest person in all of the movies if you actually go by light speed theory. But anyway, go on, Cyrus.
Well, I was just gonna say, as far as the time, like we only have these many hours of fuel. They took a whole bunch of that fuel and they put it into those other crafts, and when they changed their plan, and then all those crafts took off, and the other vehicle, the other giant transport, was still going to have to go for quite a ways to lead them off. So to me, I just was like, well, scratch the whole, like, what you had assessed as far as how much time you would have is irrelevant at this point, because you've changed the dynamic. I mean,
true.
Yeah.
The math.
And Born Distracted brings up a good point too, is where did Finn and Rose get all the fuel for their ship to go to light speed and back? And because that obviously got started.
Right. This is all going to factor, like the math is all irrelevant really, because it's all, what is we've got so much fuel for so many hours based on what? I mean, we don't know we don't, where's the spreadsheet, Eugene? We need a spreadsheet.
Well, no, you're saying this, and I'm actually thinking about this, and I'm thinking, who's the one that actually reported how much fuel and time they had left? If it was Holdo, she didn't tell him the initial plan anyway. Yeah. She may have been drastically underestimating the amount of fuel they had left. Because this was her plan was, okay, well, I'm only going to say we've got this many hours and we've got, that's factoring in getting all these other ships off. But anyway, that's injection. But
maybe this is another example of the kind of bullshit that really doesn't matter.
Exactly. And I completely agree with you on that. So Luke takes Rey for her first lesson, and the first lesson is the Force does not belong to just the Jedi. There's a really cool scene, once again, very humorous with the whole thing when he tells her close her eyes and reach out, and she does, and he takes the thing and tickles her fingers. I was busting a gut. That was hilarious.
Oh, you're really strong with the Force. Oh my.
I feel something. Do you?
That's great.
And she goes, oh, reach out, like, and he's just like, you think? But and then there's the really cool scene where she starts explaining everything, very Yoda-esque, and then is drawn to this dark place on the island, and that's when we get the lines that Luke's like, I have not felt you didn't even stop, like the dark side called you and you immediately went to it. You didn't even stop or blink or anything, and it scared the hell out of him. And he says that I've seen this once before. It didn't scare me enough the first time. And so we kind of get that going back to our trailers at the beginning, our first trailers, we got the hints of that. And it's like, ooh, is Rey going to turn? And everyone's theories start cranking, going on. Oh, Rey's actually going to become the bad guy and Kylo Ren's going to turn. And that's going to be the big twist. And I'm going to base my entire life on, rest of my life on this theory being the truth. And that's the end. That's what people do.
That's why I don't listen to any of the damn theories.
Thank you. I also want to make a companion shirt that says something, something along the lines that your Rey's origin theory sucks. So, anyway, we cut back to Finn and Rose and BB-8, and they go to a planet and it's a casino. They're looking for the slicer, and they're running around the casino or whatever.
This scene brings up a lot of stuff that I actually liked about their little side story.
Okay, yes, and I wanted to turn this over because I wanted to know what were your thoughts on this, because one of the major criticisms that I saw online was people were he's like, well, have you ever been there? She's like, no, I've just read about it, but it's full of the worst people in the world. And the initial thing is the worst people in the world are rich people. And it's like a lot of people online were immediately like, oh, Star Wars has got a political opinion and they're going to shove it in our face. And, being rich is bad and this, that, and the other. And I'm just like, first off, have you seen Star Wars? Because the original trilogy was a thinly veiled attempt of George Lucas hating on the Vietnam War. The entire prequels was his thinly veiled hatred for the Bush administration. He's come out and blatantly said it. There's not a theory. That is fact.
Yep.
George Lucas has said, I didn't like how this was going down, so I wrote a movie and I put political statement in it. Even if it was.
Well, they said weapons manufacturers.
That was the thing. That was the thing that cleared it up, though. When it's like, well, how do you think they got all this money? Well, creating weapons and selling it to the First Order. Well, then that makes them bad guys. So it's not really a political statement so much as in they're just bad guys.
And that's why I love when they get on the other ship and they say, "Oh, it's not just."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not, and that was, to me, that's why it definitely killed it from being a political statement, because saying people who develop weapons are bad is, that's kind of a political statement. Saying if you create weapons, that's a bad thing. But come on, anyone, I think pretty much everybody would agree. If you're fucking making weapons and selling it to both sides, you're garbage.
You're dirty. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yes, I liked the scene on the casino planet because it's out there. Yeah. There's all these different aliens and different cultures, and it was nice. Fun.
It was a nice. It's kind of like like the bar scene that we normally get, where it's like all the rough guys and all, but it's like the casino, and I like that. It was a good trade off.
Yes, instead of the dark, seedy place like we've always gone to in the previous movies, let's flip it this time and make it, a high end, classy,
but still seedy.
But still seedy.
I initially thought that whole little side trip was pointless. Mm-hmm. And like the first time I watched it, I was like, why did they waste their time? We didn't need to see this. And then I afterwards realized, okay, we got a little bit about them, but also like those kids, I think are gonna turn into something
that comes in later too.
Yes, it does. And we'll talk about that at the end. Please save any comments to that to the very end, because that is actually very important.
So
go on.
And I was just going to say the only reason why, like the reason why I like the casino part was because you did get to see something that a lot of people have always complained about was where's all the money coming from? Where's all these people getting the money for the Death Star and this, that, and the other? And now we get our answer is these shitty people are building these weapons for both sides just to keep the war so that they can keep making money, and that's your root of evil, essentially. That was my reason why I liked it anyway.
Good thing that wouldn't happen in the real world.
Absolutely not.
Ever.
Yeah. No, it's totally unbelievable. I checked out at that point.
Yeah. So our heroes get captured, except for BB-8. They just throw him out of the casino for whatever reason. And they get stuck in the jail cell, and that's where we meet. I don't think they actually ever said the guy's name, but looking it up online, apparently the character's name is DJ, and he's played by Benicio del Toro.
Yep.
A very interesting character. Originally, when you first meet him and you see the way he acts and the way that he reacts and the way that he handles himself by breaking them out and telling them that he can get the job done, it's very... Oh, well, we have another smuggler, another guy that's got a heart of gold.
Saw Lando all over him.
Exactly. He's that guy that, you can't help but like, and he's probably going to do some less than upper, some underhanded stuff, but in the end he's got a heart of gold. That was an interesting scene with BB-8, and taking care of that. And then we get the scene where they break out and they basically destroy the casino and, the area around it, with the running animals, which was pretty cool. And they get picked up by DJ and BB-8. And
Can I say something real quick about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
My daughter really appreciated this scene with the animals, the track and everything, because, it was a throwback to a lot of feelings about, like, for one, you get the racing thing, and it kind of makes you think about episode 1 with the pod racing and stuff like that.
Yes, definitely calls back there.
And then you have these giant animals and everything, which kind of makes you think about like the Tauntauns and stuff and Empire Strikes Back and everything. And then the animals are the way they're portrayed, you know, that they're being abused basically, and that the poor people are being used also to, you know, to keep up with animals and everything. You know, she was like, you know, that, you know, you really don't see, like, you hear about the slave stuff a couple of times in Star Wars, and then the rest of the time everybody kind of forgets that, like, there's this whole aspect that there's slavery in Star Wars, you know, like, you remember Anakin, you know, was a slave, his mom was a slave, you know, and we don't really hear about it too much other than that. There's not like this like movement to free the slaves or nothing, you know, that doesn't really happen in Star Wars. So she's kind of hopeful that there'll be, you know, with especially the way the movie ends, that maybe that'll be sort of worked into the narrative, so to speak. And she really liked those giant animals. She's like, "Oh my god, I got to go find one of these," you know.
No, really I agree. Cool. I think I'll go ahead and I'll just go ahead and throw this out there. I've seen several people post things about, like, you know, everyone on the internet's going crazy over porgs, but I want to know where I can A, get one of those, and B, get a crystal fox.
Oh yeah, it's crystal fox.
I'll be honest, of the three, I'd have a crystal fox in a heartbeat. That thing was fucking awesome. That was a dope animal. Porg, not so much. Don't really care. The big animals seem cool, but no, crystal fox. I'm on team crystal fox. So,
give me one of those big bastards.
The big bastards and ride to work. Yeah. And the fact, well, they could climb. That was pretty cool. So, so the resistance down to ships. Plan learns about the plan about quietly escaping from the shuttles. He tells Finn and Rose. At this point, Luke gives the second lesson, and it's basically just him telling Rey, you know, the Jedi have fucked up all their lives. Like, the Jedi created the Jedi Council, and thus created the, you know, the Empire was able to, you know, come in right under their noses and destroy them. A Jedi trained Darth Vader, and then of course he throws it back in his face, and a Jedi saved Darth Vader. And
it was interesting how he had said that the Jedi had separated people from the Force. You know, they had made it into this like elite club.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was very
and the Jedi and the Force belongs to everyone, because he did specifically say that.
He was pissed that they and himself became arrogant. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of like how the super fans of Star Wars have. No, never mind. I'll leave that alone.
No, that's no. I agree with that. That is very much true. Is the fact that people. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. So anyway, and it's at this point she asks him, well, what exactly happened? And he says, you know, I felt an evil in Kylo Ren. Well, in Ben, and you know, I thought maybe for half a second, that's what it was. He said, I felt an evil in Ben, and he attacked me. And whenever he thought I must have been dead. When I woke up, he had burned the temple down, killed most everyone, and then turned a few of my pupils. So at this point, Rey goes to the dark place, and this was another pivotal part of the movie. So she goes into the dark place, which, by the way, that was a very fucking cool scene. Yeah, I like how they did that.
I also like how she was kind of narrating it there as well. So you could hear her thoughts. It
was very interesting. Yeah,
it was very well. Yeah, it was very well done. It was definitely a callback to the evil tree, you know, in Empire. But when she asked her question, you know, show me my parents, please. And we see the two figures coming forth. I don't know about y'all, but the whole time I just kept going, please don't let it be Han and Leia. Please don't let it be Han and Leia. Please don't let it be Han and Leia. Because I'll be honest with you, I really did not want her to be Kylo Ren's sister. And then when it starts to form into one, I thought, okay. And then when she wipes it away and it's just herself, I'm just like, okay, haven't got this question answered yet, but it also answers the question, she said, like literally the next scene is her talking with Kylo Ren, and she tells him, I went there looking for answers and I didn't find any. I went to the dark side, to this dark place, and I didn't find any answers. So Luke opens up finally, and that was the other thing. She realizes that Luke has closed himself to the Force, which explains why. And I didn't bring this up earlier. Whenever they get there and first confront him, he has to ask Chewie what happened, and he asked what happened to Han. Well, I was like, obviously he should have known when Han died.
Yeah.
But it explains why he didn't know Han died. He shut himself off. So anyway, he opens himself back up to the Force or whatever. She's sitting there talking with Kylo Ren, and they have a moment of understanding where they actually kind of reach out and touch each other. And it's at that point she gets a glimpse of what she thinks his future is. He gets a glimpse of hers. Luke walks in, basically explodes the hut, telling him to stop, and then she has a duel with Luke, which was really cool, and forces the truth out of him. And he's like, I had a moment where I was going, for a half a second, I thought about killing Ben to try to end this, and I couldn't do it. I failed. I could not bring myself to do it. And then he basically attacked me and destroyed everything. And it's at that point we learn, we kind of already know that Luke is a broken man, but at this point we truly understand that Luke is not the hero. Once again, going back to what we've been saying, that everyone has thought forever Luke is. He's just a dude trying to do his best, and he fails. He's a faulty person. He's a human being like the rest of us. And he went to extremes because of what he's done. Now, granted, I don't think I've ever failed to the point where I've brought on an evil that will conquer the world or the galaxy in his point. So maybe I would be a little harder on myself.
Not that you know of.
Not that I know of yet. Who knows? I did teach, school for a little while. One of my 8th graders comes back to, take over the world, be like, I had that kid in 8th grade, computer lit.
He's like, look how old you've become. You're like, oh, fuck. You're like, Rudy? Me. You're like, Rudy? No, I'm pissed.
So anyway, they have this falling out, and Rey, basically says, I'm going to leave and go to Kylo Ren. And Luke's just like, beside himself at this point. We cut back over. Poe takes over the ship from Holdo while there's, fueling things up, trying to basically buy time for Finn, Rose, BB-8, and DJ to infiltrate the ship. And then, like I said, Rey goes to meet Kylo Ren. Cut back once again to the island, and Luke's decided, he pulls out what we think is a lightsaber at first, ends up being basically like a torch, and is walking in to destroy the last Jedi temple, or the first Jedi temple, the tree, and is confronted by a Force ghost. And I just had this feeling we were going to get a ghost. I really didn't know who it was going to be. I was really betting on Yoda or Obi-Wan. I'm really glad it was Yoda. And Sai and I have actually had a little conversation about this because we had to talk some after the movie. It had to happen. Not only was it Yoda, but it was Empire Jedi Yoda. It was
Yoda.
Puppet. It's exactly how Sai put it. It was puppet Yoda. It was crazy ass, cackling, having a good time Yoda. And Luke pauses, like he decides he's not going to burn it down. And at this point, what was it that you told me, Sai?
I don't remember.
You said it finally became clear to you when Obi-Wan Kenobi told Darth Vader, if you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Because like I told Sai, shooting lightning out of your hands is pretty fucking awesome. Calling a fucking lightning bolt down from the sky, that's some next level shit, dude.
You know what was funny to me was watching the dynamic when Yoda was talking to Luke, how Luke's an old man, but when he's talking to Yoda, he goes right
Skywalker.
Yep.
It was so interesting. Mark Hamill. This
Oh,
is the best
fantastic.
acting he's ever done. Like
Oh,
it was, he put so much thought into what he did. It was very interesting to watch. So I really appreciated that moment.
I did too. And he tells him, the key takeaway line from that is, failure is the greatest teacher. You didn't, there was a failure, but you have to learn from it. And burns down the Jedi Temple. At this point, cut back, Leia takes over the ship from Poe. Basically, there shows him, hey, we're heading to this mineral planet. We're under cloak. This is how we're going to get out. Holdo says she's going to stay, man the ship. Rose, BB-8, so their little group get onto the ship, and get captured. Because once again, we're reinforced right at that scene that Benicio del Toro's character, which, by the way, I loved the little nuances that he put in that character, like the slight stutter he would put in every so often, some of the mannerisms he had. He gives Rose back her medallion once he uses it to get to that next point. But Rose and Finn are brought in and are going to be executed, and they find out that he's just flat out sold them out, and he sold them out by telling the Empire the plan that, oh, hey, by the way, they're actually escaping off the ship in the 30 little ships that y'all aren't even looking for.
Which, why weren't they looking for that? That didn't make sense to me.
Well, they said that they were cloaked. She said that they were cloaked and they shouldn't see them. And when they come, whenever the guard walks back in, he says he was right. We did a full spectrum scan, and sure enough, that's where they were. So I'm guessing because they were cloaked, they wouldn't have normally found them in the normal scan. So
yeah. You would just think they'd be looking for something like that, knowing that they're like out of options, But
once again, I think it kind of goes back to the whole arrogance thing of we've got them, they can't get out. We're basically just letting them go. They can't do anything at this point, so we're not. They're kind of standing down. But like again, that's my interjecting too. So, yeah. And at this point, Rey shows back up on the ship, or she shows up. Kylo takes her to, I'm blanking, Snoke. She takes him to Snoke. And we have this interesting scene where Snoke is basically just, showing off his powers. I love the part where she goes to reach out for the lightsaber and he basically swings it around and smacks her in the head with it. And it's just like, you pathetic little thing. I can do whatever I want with you. And then pulls her closer and then puts her up and everything else. And this is where I kind of really cemented my idea or my thought process as to how the First Order is working, why they're dragging out this battle so long, why they're not just putting a stop to it, is because he does the same fucking thing the Emperor does and sends her over to the thing and is like, here, you get to watch all of the little ships blow up one at a time and see everyone die before I kill you. And she has one more moment where she tries to, break free. She grabs Kylo Ren's lightsaber. He basically strips it from her, flings her over there, turns her around, and tells Kylo Ren, it's time to fulfill your destiny. It's time to basically prove to me that you are my apprentice. And I thought this was very well done.
Yeah.
The way that he basically, was just reading out his thoughts one at a time. Because if you, especially going through it the second time listening to it, he's very, and now he's like maneuvering the lightsaber, and he's going to put it through his enemy. And there's
a moment right before that starts where Kylo Ren figures out Snoke's weakness. There's a moment where you see Kylo Ren recognize his opportunity, because he tells her that he completely understands what Kylo Ren's thinking, but he doesn't. And as soon as Kylo Ren realizes that, he's like, aha. And that's all I wanted to add to that. There was just that.
It was a bit of a mind trip that Snoke was trying to play with him, but Kylo saw around it. And I think the biggest mistake Kylo made was pissing off Kylo to the point of, hey, you're a child, and Kylo's like, fuck you, watch this.
Exactly. Yeah. When he got cut in half, I was like, because at first you just see it go through him, and he's just kind of looking at it, and then Kylo Ren pulls the lightsaber to him, thus cutting him all the way in half. I'm still thinking in the back of my head, okay, this isn't over with.
No.
Snoke's about to get up, and we're about to see some shit, and then the top part of his body falls off, and I'm like, well, no, he's done.
I wasn't convinced Snoke was dead until they cut back to him laying on the ground with his tongue hanging out like a dog that got run over. That was when I was like, oh yeah, he's dead. Okay.
He's done.
I will say, as cool as that was, and as wicked a scene as that was, I am a little disappointed that that's the end of Snoke as that. Like, that was too easy, in my opinion. I get why it had to happen that way, but man, did I ever want to see what Snoke could do. No, maybe he comes back as a Force ghost, and we see what else he can do. There's other options, but
I'm going to agree with you, Ray, because I understand. Honestly, I'm just going to say this: what J.J. Abrams was doing is not what Rian Johnson was doing.
No,
like what J.J. Abrams did was set up Snoke to be the Emperor. He set him up to be the next Emperor. Very much staying in line with the old tropes of Star Wars.
Yeah. And
Rian Johnson was like, I don't need this guy. Yeah. Like, he's in my way. He's we want to get to Kylo Ren being I want Kylo Ren to be something besides just this
another Vader.
Well, I want to be Vader. Not even a Vader. I want to be Vader. We've got to make Kylo Ren interesting, because I honestly felt like he wasn't that interesting. I honestly felt like Kylo Ren was
tiny little bitch.
Kind of annoying. Yeah.
Which is fair. You have this buildup of what Snoke could be.
I don't disagree with you. I think it's jarring because you had set up
a middle finger to the audience.
It's a middle finger in a lot of ways, because you're set up for 2 years plus, because you talk about before the movie came out too, of thinking who the hell the Snoke is, and then everybody has a theory about Snoke, and there's essays written about who Snoke is, and video after video. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So you're sitting here. This is one of the big questions going into this movie: who is Snoke? And not only do we not know who Snoke was, they murdered him in a very, unceremonious way. I think it was very in line with what the rest of the movie was, as far as how everything's basically like
not go the way you think it's going
to
go.
Just give up, because you're not going to be able to predict this. Just give up. We're just watch it. Just watch it. That's kind of what Rian Johnson was trying to say. Like, be in this moment with me. Like, be in this moment. Yeah. And I appreciate that, but I also understand that it's a little bit jarring and aggravating, because you sit here and go, fuck who, but there's still people after this still trying to figure out who Snoke is, and are we still gonna?
And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Let those people read in a book that I'm sure will come out about who Snoke is and everything else. For those people, that's great, and they can have that stuff.
Maybe they'll have a cartoon.
But in my opinion, who the fuck cares who Snoke was?
Oh, I do.
I don't. He was the Emperor Light to me.
Here's the thing. Yeah. We care, but why do we care? That's the question.
I care because I think his history goes beyond anything else, and I think we actually. But
that's something we've just imagined. They've never said that. Like, see, that's the problem. Is there's so much about Star Wars that we just imagine, and they didn't say. Oh,
okay, and that's fair. But they did pump up this Snoke.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
No, and I agree with that. Yeah.
So. But then I'll flip this completely as well. Boba Fett.
Yeah, I was gonna say everybody wants
Boba Fett. That's a good.
So I'm playing my own devil's advocate.
Never gets to say anything. Like, we're talking, and I feel bad because it's like I think every time she starts to talk, we overtalk her. Is that what we're doing, Jennifer?
I'm just listening, honestly, but y'all kind of jump on things before I get to them. So
anyway, what I was saying,
Jump in.
I was-
I was gonna say, if I haven't said this already, and you already know, jump in, shut us up.
Oh yeah.
Be like, bitch, I'm talking.
I was actually just thinking, people are going to glorify him the way they did Boba Fett. He's going to survive. He crawled out, like.
you might be right. They might Darth Maul him,
Yeah, they could.
Of course, now that the cartoon's canon, Darth Maul became a half man, half robot and lived on and had a stupid ass fight with old Obi-Wan that lasted like 3 seconds. That's what you bothered to bring back fucking Darth Maul for? Really?
There's a lot of build up for
Anyway,
I'm
but so
about his
this,
history, but I don't know.
Oh, sorry.
About, I'm not sad that he died for sure. Like, fuck that.
I think it'd be sad. It'd be sad. Oh my god, they killed Snow. Oh my god.
I mean, the same way y'all are. I guess I'm saying. I'm intrigued to know where he came from, how he resurrected the Empire after the Emperor, blah blah blah. But
yeah, that would be good to know. I'd like to know, like, how do we get here? Like, where's the missing movie that happened in between? Yeah.
So a couple of things with that is there is a trilogy that's coming out, and maybe that's what this comes. What that explores, which, hey, that'd be cool. And then the other thing is this scene leads to one of my favorite scenes of this movie, and that is Kylo and Rey fighting together.
Fighting the guards. That was a badass scene.
Man, those guards were badasses too. Shit.
Can I just say one quick thing though, Sai? Do you really want to go back and know what happens between movies? Because the last time we found out what happens between a movie, it didn't work out so well for you. I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying, dude.
I can't disagree. Man, you talking about a shitty movie.
I shouldn't even fucking said anything. Go anyway. So like I said, me personally, I'm glad they got rid of Snoke because he was just going to be the Emperor Light going on as being the ultimate big bad in this trilogy, and Kylo Ren, like you said, is Darth Vader Light, filling that role. And from this now we have where there's no more Emperor. They're like the big bad that we always thought was the big bad is the big bad. Like it's Kylo Ren is now numero uno. But yeah, we get that fight with him and Rey. So he's just killed Snoke. He's fighting back to back with Rey, and I love the fact that the weapons that the not Imperial Guards, I guess you just call them the guards used, the Crimson Guards, were varied and awesome. What were they?
Praetorian Guards.
Praetorian Guards.
Okay.
I love the way the weapons were designed differently, the way they fought differently. There was, there was a chain. There were like different swords. There was like a club.
And they actually could fight. Like they weren't like stormtroopers where you looked at them and they fell down. You actually got to see a good battle with the guards.
Yeah, there was a couple of moments where you're like, "Fuck, are they gonna kill one of these?" Like, I didn't know what to expect at that moment. That's what I loved about that moment was because of what had been going on in the movie. I felt like I don't know what's about to happen. Like I was actually intrigued. So
yeah.
One of my buddies was asking. One of my buddies was disappointed that it took so long for Rey and Kylo to defeat those guards. But I'm like, dude, they were trained to protect Snoke, and Snoke like that was.
Oh, I wanted to say something, and I forgot to mention this since you're talking about this. There was a guy who played an what do they call him now? First Order. Yeah, Captain Kennedy, who was played by a guy named Mark Lewis Jones. He was the guy that was in charge of, I believe, the Dreadnought.
Yeah, the Dreadnought. Yeah, I know which. He was in charge of the Dreadnought, and he was it was like very gruff, I
liked him. I thought he was really good, and he had a few scenes. He didn't have a whole lot, but I was like, that guy's good. Like I want to see more those kind of First Order and a lot less Hux kind of First Order. You know what I'm trying to say? Like that was more like the old school like Empire right there. That was good. I'm sorry. I forgot to mention this.
No, dude, yeah.
Good addition.
And it's at this point we get the quote unquote other big reveal, and that is where Kylo Ren tells Rey, "You've known this all of your life. Your parents are nobody, and they were garbage, and they just, they're what do you said? Thieves that were buried in a pauper's grave somewhere on Jakku." And he's like, "You've known this all along. You just never could bring yourself to believe it, which makes you nothing. But you're nothing to me." And you get to that point, and you're like, "Oh shit! Is she going to turn? Is she going to really like join him?"
Yeah, he says, "You're not nothing to me."
Yeah, you're not nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, that was. You're right, dude. That entire sequence was very much like, "What's about to happen here? What's about to happen here?"
Yeah.
It was very interesting.
He says please, like he's almost begging her to. Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Yeah,
That's
you really
the Anakin coming out of him.
You really got to see. I've heard this mentioned in other reviews and other things because I've watched quite a bit of that. You really got to see a little bit of the seductive side of the dark side for the first time, and I don't know, because you didn't really see it with Anakin and all that, but you really did start to understand a little bit about how the dark side could be appealing to somebody who you wouldn't necessarily. You'd be like, well, what the hell? Why would you go to the dark side? Well, it's not just about power; it's also about acceptance. And so it was very interesting to see that.
Same way gangs, in all honesty, appeal to people. Why the fuck would you want to join a gang? Well, if you have nothing, you come from nothing, and people offer you a family, quote unquote. So I completely understand. And like I said, in that moment, I was like, "Oh shit, is she going to turn, or is some of that fan theory okay?" And then we get into the lightsaber tug of war.
Joker adds a question to this. How do we know that Kylo was telling the truth?
Yes, and that was brought up, and I guess we'll go ahead and address this now. So, Nerdist brought this up. That was the first review that I saw that brought this up. Is how do we know that he's telling the truth? And they came at it from a more technical angle. Number one, they brought up the fact that this would not be the first time in a Star Wars movie where someone's lineage is bold-faced lied to the person. Yep. It's in certain points of view. No, Darth Vader didn't kill my dad. Darth Vader is my dad, motherfucker.
Kind of a stretch there, Ben. A
little bit of a stretch, Ben. But they brought up the fact from a more technical aspect in that, like, and you've said this before, Sai. J.J. Abrams set up the Force Awakens to be very much like the original trilogy. This is very much moving away from the original trilogy. The next Star Wars movie, Episode 9, it comes out in 2 years, is being helmed by J.J. Abrams. Yeah. Is he going to go back and undo some of this?
It's interesting.
And that is a very interesting question, because it's kind of like, well, I set this up and then you wrecked it. Do I go back and fix it? Because it is his vision. At least that part of it may be. But on the other hand, it's also Star Wars. And Star Wars is not always the greatest about going back and saying, hey, let's retcon something. It's just kind of like, no, we're just going to keep moving, and you just go with the flow. So
why do you just stick with one director? I'm just saying.
So the way that I can see him lying to her is, he saw her turn to his side, and maybe this is how he saw her turning to his side was, if I tell her that she is nothing to everybody else, then that's how I'm going to turn her.
Exactly.
Now, that being said, I kind of like that she may be from nobody and nowhere.
Yeah, Anakin was from nobody. Yeah. Anakin, his mom was a slave, and he didn't have a dad supposedly. Yep. And so yeah, I mean, it fits the canon.
that's been one of the biggest arguments or one of the biggest problems people have had with Star Wars for the longest time is a lot of people are like, I'm tired of the entire fucking Star Wars universe revolving around the GD Skywalkers. There are more people in the universe that can use the Force besides a Skywalker. Why does it always have to come back to those fuckers? And that's why whenever he said you came from no one, I know I physically just let out a breath of relief. I was just like, thank God I did not want her to be a Skywalker or a Solo or even a Kenobi. I wanted her to be new. And even if they said, and I thought this was dumb. One of the dumbest complaints I saw someone write as to why they didn't like the movie was, oh, well, that's lazy writing. They just didn't come up with a backstory for her. I'm like, how much harder is it to say you're a Solo and then you just move on from there? It's not dumb. It's not easier. To me, it's just like, hey, we don't have to worry about all this other bullshit. We can keep moving on.
Yeah.
So, and Born Distracted says Shmi was somebody too.
I think this is a great way to work Jar Jar back in as her.
Okay, let's go to the next scene.
All right, so we then move on to another scene that was actually really, really breathtaking in the movie, and that is Holdo decides to sacrifice herself for the movie. Now, the first time I watched this, I don't know what it is about people when they see something that there's nothing humorous at all in a scene on a movie. I don't know if it's just how they react and they just have to giggle or something. But when I watched the movie this morning, it got the reaction that it should have got. When she turns that ship and punches it into light speed and literally like bisects that ship. Yeah. And it is just this beautiful display on the screen of light and absolutely no sound. The movie theater was dead silent. It was just, It was awesome. And I mean that by the traditional, it was awe-inspiring. I have not experienced something visually like that since that rebooted Star Trek movie when they punch the Enterprise into light speed and it makes that bullet sound. That was a fresh take on it, and I loved it. And I loved this in the movie.
I actually, like, the second time I saw the movie, delayed using the bathroom just for that scene. Because I was like, I got to see this again. This was the best part.
It was so good.
You know what it was like? Like, when I saw it, everybody in the theater went like this. Ooh. Like, I'm serious, all at the same time.
And that's acceptable.
It was like Christmas lights. It was like... it was like, wow. I thought it was like one of the most impressive visual things I've seen in a movie. I thought it was just very cool looking, very unique. It was really nice. It was really cool.
Yeah.
The part that I liked about it was you saw the impact and then all the debris spreading at the light speed, right? Destroys that much more. And so that part was actually really cool. Joker's Wild hit it for me anyway. It was visually the same as watching like the Death Star explode for the first time. It was just it's like, wow. So
yeah, I loved that scene. So Kylo Ren wakes up and takes control of First Order. Now, one of the things I was looking for the second time I watched this movie, and a lot of people, some people had written, they were like, they totally changed Hook's character. Like he was he was more, straight-laced or whatever. And in this movie, he's basically a fool. And I watched it again. I thought, well, he is made fun of. Like he definitely walks into Poe's little game at the beginning. But the rest of the movie, he's not a leader. He doesn't want to be a leader. He's a lapdog, and he wants to show off, and he wants to be the teacher's pet. And because that's his whole competition with Kylo Ren, and that keeps coming up in this movie. So whenever he walks in and finds Snoke dead and sees Kylo Ren, he has that moment of hesitation of he could have easily pulled his blaster and shot Kylo Ren, but he hesitated because, once again, I'm interjecting here, he doesn't want to be a leader. He does, but he doesn't.
Let me just say, I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
No, go ahead.
I find General Hux to be a buffoon who is not interesting. There's a couple of moments that he's almost interesting, but in that 15 seconds of Captain Kennedy talking, he's fucking way more interesting than General Hux. Like, I need something from him in the next movie. I need something from him, just to make me not hate his character. Because
okay, fair enough.
Because I don't have any reason to like. He's not particularly. He's just a loudmouth douche. He just like screams and overacts. I don't have much use for Hux. I'm sorry.
Okay, fair enough. So Kylo wakes up and basically takes over. He's like, I am now the lead. Because he even says, what do you mean you're commanding my army? The first, the supreme leader is dead. And at that point he chokes him. He's like, I'm the supreme leader.
Can we just go back to one thing that
yeah.
we skipped over pretty quickly, and that was the fight scene between Finn and Phasma.
Oh God, I can't believe. Yeah, I skipped over that. My apologies.
That was a wicked thing, and then we actually see what the chrome armor does, which is deflect the light, the shots and stuff, which I thought was awesome.
Badass.
Yeah.
Why don't they all wear that?
Yeah.
Must be expensive. That's
what I was about to say.
The problem is, yeah.
I'll ask Meg next time I talk to her.
Yeah, Meg will know.
Which, by the way, I did message her. I asked her if she wanted to be on the show, but she was trooping all weekend. And she didn't respond, but I said, so I guess you're going to have to make a chrome blaster, a really pointy stick, and I'm sorry. So, taking bets here. What's the over-under on Phasma surviving the fall?
Oh yeah.
So here's something interesting. I watched a video. I can't remember who put it up. I'll try and find it and we can add the link later. But they had said that if you go into the Phasma backstory in the comics, she is all about saving her own ass. And that's why she shuts down the shield so easily in the Force Awakens. She's all about just saving her own ass. She doesn't care who it's with. She sells her family out so that she can survive and go with the First Order and everything like that. So she is surviving this, and she'll be back. Like it's.
Well, I just literally thought about it as we're talking here. If her armor can protect her against a blast at pretty close range, fire may not be able to do that much shit to it. Now that I think about it. So, yeah, hopefully she comes back. So, but
I'm sure we'll see Phasma again. But, if they brought her back for the second one, they're going to bring her back for the third one.
Yeah. And Finn busting that friggin' helmet open and her looking.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was cool.
All right. So at this point, I literally sat there in the movie and I thought, okay, I know this movie is 2.5 hours long. I have not looked at my phone. I'm not going to be that guy.
We haven't done this and this and this.
Well, no, that was the thing. I was like, all right, we're pretty much done here. We can go ahead and wrap up and we'll see where things go. And then it's like, oh shit, I completely forgot about all the scenes down on the planet. This is like bonus movie to me at this point. So, so the rebellion's down on the planet behind this large blast shield. What
can I say something? I'm sorry, I'm late again.
No, go ahead.
The evil droid that sees them.
Uh-huh.
Man, I hated that little bastard. I wanted to kill that little bastard. I was like, I hope BB-8 gets to kill that fucking robot, but he didn't get to.
Uh-huh. You know what? Next movie. Because everyone has to face off against their big bad. That'll be the big battles.
That'd be epic, man. Imagine them going at it.
You say that, but for some reason I just see these two balls with these pointy sticks going. Bzz, 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 bzz.
It'd probably be hilarious. You're probably right.
It starts at the beginning of the movie and fucking lasts as long as the chase scene was in this one. So, all right. So we're down on the planet, and we have this battle scene, and it's at this point where Poe's character starts to have his evolution. So they're like, we have to go out. We have to try to fend them off as long as we can. We also have the introduction of the crystal. He calls them the crystal critters, but the crystal foxes, which were just awesome. And they're like, okay, well, we just have to hold out. We're going to get the signal out there. Someone has got to come to our rescue. We just have to hold off long enough. So they send out their ships. We start having this big battle. They send out, TIE fighters. And first, real quick, because I don't want to gloss over this, I had to ask my brother what they're called because, of course, they changed the model number on them. They're not AT-ATs. They're AT something or another. Those things were badass looking, like the beefed up legs and shit. That was a badass looking walker. Yeah. So anyway, we're in this battle. Pretty cool battle. Millennium Falcon shows up, does some badass flying. Got to have that in the movie. Pulls off the TIE fighters. And it's like I said, at this point, Poe is like, okay, we're starting to see his evolution. He realizes they can't win this. It's time to pull back. And Finn's like, nope, I'm going to sacrifice myself. And once again, going on from the rest of this movie, I'm like, okay, he's not going to die. Or is he? Because they fucking turned this 2 or 3 different ways already. Fuck.
I thought he was going to die. I was right up until we're losing Finn. Bye.
And that was one of the things I liked about this movie so much is because so many times during this movie, like you said, Si, I genuinely did not know what was going to happen.
Yeah. It's like, what the fuck?
Exactly. No, you can't kill Finn.
We're putting this thing to the ground.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been surprised. That's the thing, though. Like, the whole time you're going, shit, is this where what? And yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Rose ends up saving Finn. She knocks him off course, saves Finn. They blast a hole open in the thing, and we're at our darkest hour. They realize no one is coming to save them. There's nothing they can do. And then our white knight shows up. Well, not literally, because he was actually wearing black. And
well, that's racist.
Fuck you. So Luke shows up, walks in, has the conversation with, which, by the way, my understanding is Carrie Fisher wrote a lot of the dialogue in this last scene. Mm-hmm. And you can tell because it has her wit, because he sits down and she's like, I know what you're going to add. I know what you're going to say. I changed my hair.
That was great.
And that was, I like knowing that, I'm like, yep, that's Carrie Fisher writing right there. And they have their moment, and he's just like, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to face him, and I can't save Ben. I can't do it. And she's like, I understand. I know. And it's like, okay. So he walks out like a badass, and I'm like, okay, so Kylo Ren's going to come down, and we're going to have this battle, and it's going to be awesome. And then Kylo Ren goes, fucking train every blaster we have on him with fire. And I'm just like, what? And I knew that's not how Luke Skywalker was going to go out. I knew that. That's one thing I didn't know. I felt confident knowing that that's not how Luke Skywalker was going to go out. But my God, I was like, how the hell is he surviving this? Like, fuck stopping a blast in midair. Yeah. And choking people from across Death Stars and shit like this. This is the most powerful thing I've ever seen when it comes to the Force.
Did he build the Force bubble around himself? Like,
that's what I thought too. I thought he had to have.
Yeah.
Disappear back into the cave. Like, yeah, how did he? And then he flicks dust off his shoulder.
And oh my God, I got goosebumps when he walked out and did the little shoulder thing. I'm just like, you are awesome. A badass.
Born Distracted just nailed it. He looked like Chuck Norris, like nothing.
Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, what I thought was really interesting, and I guess you're probably going to mention this, is all the clues that Rian Johnson was giving you about what was happening.
Oh, so leading up to the clues, one of the things I just want to say is real quick, when they're out on the planet, and I told Cy this, I thought, this is kind of Empire-ish because we're dug in. There's AT whatever's walking towards us. We're on an ice planet, and literally at that moment, that guard takes his finger and licks it and goes, salt. And I thought, well, Eugene, fuck you. It's not ice, it's salt. You dummy. And I'm just like, okay. You got me, Ryan. So then Luke delivered. I'm sorry, go on.
Like, during the fight scene, he didn't leave footprints. I didn't notice.
Exactly. That was what I was going to point out.
That, yeah.
Yeah, but he walked, and you could very clearly see, like, they showed Kylo Ren several times.
And only briefly.
Yeah.
He plants his foot, and you see the salt move, and then when Luke does it, you don't see it. You're right. I didn't notice it as much the first time, but I noticed the hell out of it the second time.
He also looked a lot younger and healthier.
Yeah, he had different. He had a different haircut. You know, it was shot at a completely different time from his other stuff, so he's lost more weight.
And my brother pointed out the lightsaber that he used in the battle was the blue one that was literally torn apart in the previous scene.
When the lightsaber lit up is when I went, what the fuck is happening here? Yeah. Like I was like, what is going on here? Yeah, I was like, where is it? And then he pulls off the Matrix maneuver where he like
that was good though. I like that.
but I was like, he's an old man. Like it's kind of weird.
Force, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, the whole thing, I'm just like, he doesn't ever cross sabers with him. He doesn't ever deflect a blow. He doesn't interact with him at all.
Yep.
And that's when it kind of starts going, oh shit, something's different here. And then he gives that speech that
strike me down in anger.
The rebellion is not dead.
Yeah.
The war has just started. And at this point, they're trying to escape. And it cuts to the scene where Rey is lifting all of the rocks, and he says, "I am not the last Jedi."
Yeah.
And Rey, he realizes, tries to cut him in half. And I thought we were going to get the whole cut in half, and Luke, does a thing. And when that didn't happen, I knew some shit was going on. And then we see him in his yoga pose, basically doing once again one of the most badass things force-wise I've ever seen. It's one thing to talk to someone from across the universe. It's completely different to project yourself light years away. And
isn't it interesting? The last thing he says to Kylo is something that Han said to him.
Yep.
Isn't that great?
I like your idea for what may happen in the future.
What idea was that?
That motherfucker comes back as a ghost and haunts Kylo Ren.
Well, he said he would. He said he would.
You strike me down in anger.
Wouldn't that be interesting? Instead of like being there to train Rey, he's there to annoy Kylo and
annoy the hell out of Kylo Ren.
Try to win him back over. Try to
shocking him with static every once in a while instead of lightning.
Calling down the lightning.
Yeah. Holding up his hair. Stupid things.
And then we see him fade off, and we get. I know a lot of people are probably still pissed off because they don't like the way Luke was portrayed, and they're probably pissed off that they quote unquote killed off Luke Skywalker.
It's a good way to go though. Like
I thought it was.
You got the two suns setting.
Yes, exactly.
And so the first one, it looks like it's sun rising, right? You got the two stars rising, and then
very poetic.
5. But he's going to be a 9. Like, come on. He's going to be a 9.
I think he has to be, because if they do, everyone was expecting this is the last time we were going to see Carrie Fisher. And it may not be the last time we see Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
And I think we may need to soften that blow by having him come back. But who knows? We'll see. Yeah. I told Sai, like I said, I felt that there was going to be a ghost appear, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be either Obi-Wan or Yoda. And I'm glad they did it this way, because to me, if they do decide to bring back Obi-Wan to maybe train Rey, we could get Ewan McGregor, because he wouldn't look like Ewan McGregor, with Luke. He would look like, he did in the original.
I don't know. I mean, who knows?
Like I said, if they do bring him back, to me, that would at least make sense. But who knows? They may not bring back anyone.
You know what? I don't like to try to spend too much energy on
building a theory as to what should happen so you can have all of your hopes and dreams just crushed in the next movie. That's a good idea. Maybe we should do that.
I'm just saying, it seems kind of like Ryan Johnson's kind of telling us, hey, you might not want to do that.
Don't speculate.
On the Falcon, and I kind of noticed this the first time, really saw it the second time. On the Falcon, we have our entire group together. Leia tells Rey that, she asked, how can we go on? And she says, we have everything we need.
It was a great
and they have they have all of their friends. They have everyone's there. They also have the Jedi books that are in the scene whenever he pulls out the
the
blanket.
Yep.
Yes.
So
the Jedi text, which makes sense because going back and watching it again, Yoda struck the place with lightning, catching it on fire. Luke's like, I'm going back in trying to find it, and that's when he gets blasted back.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, bitch, there's nothing in there for you. And then we get the final scene of the movie, and I thought this was just a beautiful way to not only wrap up this movie, but wrap up the real story for this movie. And that is that the Force is not just for a few. It's not just for the Skywalkers, it's for everyone. Because we have the scene where the kids are playing and they're telling the story about Luke Skywalker, and the guy comes in and interrupts them, and the little boy walks out. And if you look closely,
if you don't look,
he reaches for the broom and it comes to him. He does not actually grab it.
Horse grabbed it. I thought I imagined that the second time I caught it, and then I read some articles and it confirmed that that's what happened.
I thought, I wasn't sure I saw it the first time, and I saw it clear as day the second time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we had them in the story. Like, that made more sense, that casino scene, because of that. Now I'm like, okay, nothing in Star Wars land happens by, or everything happens by coincidence, but nothing's accident. So they had to bring these kids into the story somehow, and I think that's the reason we had them go to that planet.
It was nice to show that that is the spark is still alive, and that all that thing, as well as that Rey isn't the last Jedi either, right? It's like there's more that are out there, and there's always going to be a balance. So whatever darkness rises, it fulfills itself that way. But that's why I think it's going to be interesting. So in the ninth one, I think they're going to be more of a balance, right? They're going to look for more of a balance of people using both light and dark. Because you saw Rey fighting with the dark side. As far as I was concerned, she had rage in her fighting style. So it's going to be more of a balance. So
I hope the whole thing. I understand why they made her a Jedi at the end, but on it, and he said she's not. He's not the last Jedi. Part of me kind of almost hopes that she doesn't become a Jedi and she becomes something else, because that was one of the other theories of it, was that it is truly time for the Jedi to die. The whole theory about being, because I'm sure everyone here has seen those what if comics. What if Jedis were allowed to have a family? How much would that have changed the universe? And it's literally it's like just a couple of panels of Anakin going and telling his best friend, "Hey, I'm having images of my wife dying. Can you help me out?" "Yeah, let's figure it out." "Oh, by the way, he's the Emperor. Let's go in there and beat his ass." And everyone lives in harmony and everything's great. But because we had a rule that you can't get married and have kids,
fuck you.
Exactly, fuck you.
I think it's interesting that the bad guys are the new order, and it seems like the good guys are chaotic. They're very things are all over the place. There's no structure. It's like, it's interesting how they've kind of flip-flopped, how things
you said something there, and actually I forgot. Let me go back to this real quick. Luke specifically says the rebellion is not dead. At some point in the movie,
the rebels,
where did I write it down?
Carrie Fisher says the rebels. Yeah.
The rebels. That's right. Whenever they're escaping to the planet, she says rebels. At that point, they no longer refer to themselves as the resistance, and they are the rebels.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. They went back to that. Something that was else in the movie that we haven't talked about that I specifically wanted to bring up, and because I kind of thought you would bring it up, Si. Thoughts on the music?
Oh my God.
They used the same one as that opening was the exact same as the other ones. Like, it was perfect.
There's two moments of music that I want to discuss.
Okay. I knew there was going to be something.
One, they flat out used the Emperor's music with Snoke. Like, they absolutely went to the choir, the male choir. And I mean, obviously this was supposed to play off of what happens in Return of the Jedi and then turn it on its head. I just thought it was interesting how obvious. I mean, they just blatantly just said, "Here, Emperor's music." That was interesting to me. But what was more interesting to me later in the movie, when the Millennium Falcon is going through the red crystals, and they played the battle music from the original Star Wars when Rey is running the cannon, and it's. I mean, that was the most thrilling thing for me to hear that music at that moment when they're shooting she's shooting the TIE fighters, and you're getting all these vibes of like. It was funny because I expected to feel like this was going to be similar to the Empire scenes when they're going through the asteroids and stuff, but no, it felt like the damn trench in Return of the Jedi when they're going through trying to get to the core of the second Death Star in Return of the Jedi. Uh-huh. But it was just very interesting how that all kind of, I don't know. It felt really cool. It felt really cool. So, I very much enjoyed the music in the movie. And I really liked the new themes that were introduced, and
it tied in nicely.
Yeah, it was, John Williams really did a good job with the music. I don't have any problems with it. I thought it was great. Especially since none of his fucking music was in that fucking dumpster fire of a piece of shit movie.
I was afraid
that came out last year.
So
anyway,
one thing that we skipped it over. Sorry, I'm going back a little bit here, but the accident where they save Finn, right? Rose crashes into him, and it's, you can see a little bit of change in Finn where she says, you got to stop fighting for against what you hate and start fighting for something that you love. It was a good little scene, but anyway.
Nick brings up, I forgot to mention, I'm glad he brought it up because I've actually had it in my notes. Those caretakers on the Jedi Island were hilarious. They were,
yeah.
I was a little worried when I first saw them, but I enjoyed them. They were pretty good.
Yeah, especially good callback.
They're pushing the cart.
That cart part where she cuts. Yeah, that was awesome.
He's like, I don't think they like you very much.
Imagine why.
Stare at her.
Yeah.
Really, bitch?
It was great.
There were a couple of other overarching things I wanted to bring up. People are complaining. I see online, a lot of people are complaining that there's too many questions. They're like, there's not enough answers. Too many questions. Now I'm just going to repeat this. I have never gone to film school. I have never really studied film theory. I have watched several shows and stuff where they talk about film theory. And one of the kind of running things about film theory is questions are almost always better than answers.
Yeah.
So to me, I thought that was a good thing. Now, of course, that's the thing. You can always go to an extreme. You have Lost, where you get no answers at all. On the other hand,
wait a minute. Who made Lost? Who was the guy that made
J.J. Abrams?
Oh, yeah.
He loves his question boxes, but
I don't know. I just thought that for no reason. Sorry.
And then you get the other side of the coin where you get all of your answers, and that is the Star Wars prequels, because we got answers to shit we didn't even really want to know. So there's a balance there. Imagine that there's being a balance of questions and answers. So to me, like, some people were like, well, we still don't have this answer. I'm like, guys, there's more movies coming. It's okay. This didn't have to be it.
But we got one of the bigger answers that I wanted, and that was what happened between Kylo and Luke. And what a moment, right? To show how flawed Luke was and allow him to have that. And then for him to, have that moment of, no, I'm wrong here, but now I'm too late because I already made that decision. And even though I stopped myself, Kylo doesn't know that. And so now he created Kylo from that, right? Like, I thought that was a really good twist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After I saw it, what I kind of told everyone was, it leaves you with questions, but not the angry, like you're excited. Like, after episode 7, I was just more angry than anything. I was like, God damn it. These questions suck. But now I'm kind of like, okay, I'm ready to wait. And, they're good questions.
I think what Rian Johnson's trying to do, I guess, is hopefully get us to understand that maybe we obsess a little too much about things that ultimately may not be important, or as important as we think.
Anyway,
Yeah, maybe it's good to be a fan of something. It's good to be someone who contemplates about Star Wars and says, I wonder this and I wonder that, and be curious. But when we get so caught up in, I predicted this and I'm right, and y'all are all, this, we start to lose, like, the movie almost stops being about Star Wars and starts to be about, like, ego. Like,
that being said, though, Si, you can still, like, you can be a fan of this and still be disappointed in this film. There were things in this film that I did not enjoy, and that's, there's
some things I didn't like too. It's not a perfect movie.
No, like this, I think, like, the score was a 97 or something like that, or like for a while.
That's too high. That's too
93.
high.
It is 93. A 93 on the critics score on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 54 for the audience.
So there's something that okay, so I watch a lot,
this and that and the other thing. And so as far as what I think about this movie, my initial thoughts are that I think it's very jarring and very, very, very different, unexpected, somewhat difficult to watch, because you set yourself up, and I think there's been said several times in the chat, I know Nick has said this, that you have certain expectations for a reason, right? They've led you into something. You're a fan of something, you follow the history of it, you follow the lore of it, and as a fan, you build these expectations based on what they show you. Yeah. And what Rian Johnson did was throw all that out the window and almost throw it in your face. And I don't think that I'm going to form an opinion where I dislike this movie. I think that I'm going to continue to like this movie, but I do think that it's valid for somebody to say that they feel like they were being maybe a little bit misled about what this movie was, and maybe condescended to, in the same way I felt like I was being condescended to about The Force Awakens, but for completely different reasons. I felt like maybe I'm being talked down to a little bit as a fan in an insulting way. This is almost like you're being talked down to as a fan because you care too much. So I think it's a valid criticism, and I don't dismiss it. And only time will tell how I ultimately feel about the movie.
Yeah. Looks like we went down, but we're back up right on there. So
yeah, we went down, and I've been watching it. We never got below 25 frames per second, never above 35% CPU usage. Just for whatever reason, YouTube did not want to take any data. So, but we are back up and running again. I did hit record, so.
It went down while I was talking.
Yeah,
God dang it.
Unfortunately, yeah, it did.
God so dang it! That's what they missed. I said not much.
Yeah, exactly.
So I basically agreed with everything that Nick has been saying. So,
he did not. Nick, he was roasting you, dude.
Oh,
it was not cool.
Dude, go back and watch it later. I was backing you up, actually.
So he was.
What about Jennifer? Jennifer, where are you at with this movie?
I liked it a lot, and I liked that they brought back a lot of old stuff, like throwbacks, Leia and Yoda, and just little things here and there. I like that they're introducing new characters, and they're kind of giving us, resolution on the old characters, wrapping them up, and then saying, hey, these guys are going to take it from here. Thought it was interesting that they killed Luke and not Leia, considering she died in real life. So seeing her storyline end is going to be interesting. But I mean, I don't know. I didn't get I didn't read into it as much as y'all, as far as like fans are, too expectant or too know-it-all or whatever. I just went into it like I thought that they answered a lot of questions, and they left the right amount of questions and gave us enough of a new story to like look forward to, and not just repeating the same old. Because Force Awakens did feel like it recycled a lot of the same ideas, which is good and bad, you know.
So one thing that I was hoping that they were going to touch on in this particular movie, but hopefully they'll touch on the next movie, because they focused in on it, especially with this movie, they would make sure that you saw Luke's necklace with the red crystal. They made sure that you knew about Snoke's black ring. I need to pay off. If you're going to pay attention to those things and you're going to make sure that the audience focuses on that for even a little bit, there's got to be a payoff for me. So hopefully in the next one they talk about those types of things.
That is something. I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't mean, I'm just going to say this real fast. I hope that they weren't deliberately like subverting expectations in that way. You know what I mean? I hope it wasn't like, we're going to introduce something new here just as a promotional thing. That's actually, because that's what pisses me off so much about, that's one of the things that pisses me off so much about that fucking garbage movie that came out last year. It was one of the worst movies ever made that I can't, anyway.
I don't think it was that bad.
I just like to see Eugene's face when I do that.
Because it's so fucking over the top.
I don't hate it that much. I
know, but you make it out to be that way, because when you start going that way, I'm just like, I'm going to strap you down and make you watch Mortal Kombat Annihilation over and over and over again until you understand that was not that bad of a movie.
It wasn't that bad.
I will show you a bad movie.
Rogue One was a decent movie, but
Watch The Room.
I was going to say, or I'll make you fucking watch The Room. Which, by the way, complete side note, that movie that came out about the disaster artist apparently is supposed to be really good.
It looks hilarious, but anyway.
So that's neither here nor there for this episode.
Yeah. So a couple other questions that I still have that are in the back of my head that I'd love for Maz to explain how she got the lightsaber.
Yeah. That'd be good to know, right?
She said it was a good story. I want to hear it.
True.
And then something that I brought up before, but Luke promised 3 lessons. He only gave 2.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking we're going to see that 3rd lesson.
Did he only give 2, or did we only recognize 2? Because the 3rd one we weren't.
They made it again. They made it very, very.
He did say 3.
Lesson 1.
I think I'm like 2. You. Yeah, and I don't think we ever got the 3rd lesson. I'm almost wondering if the point of that was the 3rd lesson was for him.
Maybe.
But real quick, something I wanted to bring up. This movie, and we've already said before, this movie is being received very well by critics. Very well by critics. And, people are all over the map when it comes to the fans.
Yeah.
I think, and I really do think part of the biggest problem with the reception by the fans is the whole fan theory stuff, the buying in of the fan theory stuff. But this movie also does some very smart things. Like I said, the whole thing about not cutting back and forth and actually visually showing her during the conversations between Kylo Ren and Rey. Do you think this movie is maybe a little smarter in some instances and people aren't getting that? And the reason why I bring that up is, do you think if Empire were to come out today, because it was so vastly different than the original Star Wars, would we be doing the same exact thing now? Would we still be having these conversations of, well, why the fuck did they go to the ice planet? That was bullshit. That was like a third of the fucking movie that they could have just moved on. It's Star Wars, not Ice Wars. No one ever tears that movie apart, but because of the time it came out, you know what I'm saying? If that movie were to come out today, would we be still having the same conversations? Really? Fucking Darth Vader is Luke's dad? That's bullshit. That's lazy writing, motherfucker.
Oh, damn.
Think about it.
I never thought. We were kids, so I never thought about it that way. You know,
we would have never thought it. To us, that was mind blowing. And who knows? And you know, it's a different world than it is now. There weren't, internet. What's the term I'm looking for? Voice chambers, echo chambers for people who get into and basically, call out, oh, this is how I think the movie should be. And everyone they keep building on it. And that's all they ever hear. And that's what they build into. We didn't have that shit between, the first movies. So
no, fan fiction is so much more accessible now than what it was back then. And when somebody writes in fan fiction that you really buy into and you really enjoy, it's hard to see a different story. And that's why, so it's like books, right? Ready Player One, I know that I love the book. I'm going to try and go into this movie, with low expectations and think that it's not good, that I'm not going to enjoy it, so that I might get something out of it because I know it's a totally different aspect of what the book is. So I'm trying, but I'm not going to enjoy it nearly as much. So that's just. And
I am, you guys know this, like lifelong expanded universe fan, and so this was hard for me to accept that they're changing it. None of it's relevant, blah blah blah. But I've kind of forced myself to be like, okay, this is how it is now. I have to look past that and accept certain things are the way they are. And one of the things I really liked about this movie that I didn't mention is, I don't know, it didn't feel like they played a lot of the games the other movies played with information. And like for one thing, they started this movie right after the last one. They didn't make it 10 years later or however many years, and then you have to fill in the gaps. And I liked just jumping right back into the story. That was a relief, Yep. And a lot of things, like you guys have said, they just explained flat out, and they didn't make you guess or whatever. And I think to me, that's just nice to not feel like, oh God, I have to pay attention to what's going on and fill in the blanks for all these other things because, or know all this back information. You're just
which
figure it out.
Which is important, and that is very important for a movie. Again, though, if you're going to pay a particular make the audience pay attention to something, then there's got to be a payoff for that, and that's all I'm waiting for is some of the payoff and some of the stuff that they made us pay attention to. So, still waiting for some of it, but I see exactly what you're saying. Because I don't want to have to go through 50 years of comic books or 10 different issues of comic books to say why does this person do this? And,
but don't you?
Video games are part of the story, and shows like. Yeah,
see what you don't understand, Ray, is the modern economics. Okay, and like they're trying to make money on everything, so they're going to start telling the story in a movie, then they're going to keep telling the story in the cartoon, but they're going to finish this one part of the story in this one video game. If you want the whole story, then you got to buy the loot boxes, and then you just you might get the story or you might not. Depends on how bad you want it.
Well, 1 in a million might have a part of the story, and
yeah.
But anyway. then when you finally get the answer, it could be like this shit where it's like throws the lightsaber behind him and walks up. You know what I mean? Like so I don't know. Like
just read Wikipedia, okay?
Wikipedia.
Yep, there you go.
All right.
Just read that. Get the full story.
Yeah.
Spent $50 damn on this loot box, and all I fucking got was a porg. What the fuck?
But that's the important porg.
Oh, that was real quick, I guess I know we're going extremely long on this, but I know this is extremely important to all of us because we're all Star Wars fans. Does anyone have any wrap up comments they just want to kind of throw out there?
I do.
All right, Cyrus, what do you got for us?
First of all, I'm right, and no.
Dude, I gotta be up for work in 5 hours.
Okay, I'll go real fast. I just want to say, I wonder what it would have been like if we had gotten a regular Star Wars movie instead of a very different kind of Star Wars movie. I wonder if this wasn't what was needed, or although right now it seems like it's very divisive and very controversial, and the Star Wars fan community is struggling with whether or not they even like this movie, let alone if it was a good movie. I wonder if it wasn't ultimately necessary for the longevity of the series. Sometimes you got to, go a new direction, and maybe it doesn't all work. And I don't think all of this movie does work, but maybe it's important to break, especially after The Force Awakens, to try to break that mold somewhat. And maybe that's why they're bringing in J.J. Abrams again, because they anticipated that the fans were going to have a problem with the extreme change. And maybe the idea is for J.J. Abrams to come back in and say, everything's going to be okay, everybody. We're going to learn from the good and the bad, and we're going to try to make, we're going to go from there. So I'm optimistic. In fact, I think this new Star Wars might have been better off named A New Hope, because it actually makes me hopeful about Star Wars again, instead of cynical about Star Wars, which is where I was at. So for no other reason than that, I like this movie.
There's a theory out there about how we learn, and it's literally you have to go out into chaos and then come back into what's known and safe. And the theory is in the chaos is where we get creativity, and we push ourselves and we learn new things. But you can't live in chaos forever. You have to come back to what's known to build and to grow. And this to me seems like the perfect ebb and flow of that. You've got the Force Awakens, which was, hey, we've got to come back to what we know. This is Star Wars. This is the Star Wars you've always known. It's safe here. We're getting back on track. Now let's go off into the chaos, which is this movie, and let's explore some new ideas. Let's do some different stuff. And then, like you said, bringing J.J. Abrams. All right, so let's go back to something a little safer.
Yeah. We
can digest this, and then maybe the movie after that, because they're going to keep being movies. We can press things a little further. We can see what else is out there, because it's a big fucking universe, and we're still seeing just a little bitty piece of it. So, yeah. Ray, any other comments?
Just like I agree with Born Distracted. Sai is Snoke.
Fulfill your destiny.
I'm really trying not to set up myself for disappointment with episode 9. I've enjoyed this movie. I've looked past some of the stuff that I didn't like, because coming out of the theater, Chris turned to me and she's like, "So what do you think?" I was like, "I'm still digesting it. I'm still trying to figure it out, where it is and where I." So, and you know what? Even after this conversation, I know that I liked the movie. How much I liked it, I don't know. I have to watch it another time or two, and figure that out. And then when it comes out on Netflix or whatever, Hulu or, because we didn't even discuss what Disney's doing, but but anyway, yeah. Well, it's a great addition to the Star Wars, story. I think it's a great way to send off Luke, but I don't think we're done with him. I hope we're not done with Snoke, because I still think there's something there. And yeah, I'm still excited to see 9. So that's the most important part.
Jen?
I'm very excited for the next movie, future movies, and I think this movie kind of like rekindled my excitement, because Force Awakens was good and all, but it wasn't. I don't know. It just didn't do the same thing for me. It also makes me really want to go back and read some of the newer books, and figure out what happened, in between, how we got to this point, because, we leave Return of the Jedi and they've killed the bad guys and everybody's great. And then fast forward 30 years and they're doing the same thing. They're fighting the same fight. So what happened in that time period? And I'm sure some of that's in the books and everything I haven't read, but yeah, I'm excited to see what happens and where it goes from here. And, who we get back.
Yeah.
The next movie.
So those check them dead.
Conversations in the chat room as always. So, if
Yeah, that
my
wasn't directed at you, Jen. Sorry.
yeah, if
Thanks, guys.
no, I
Yeah, Jennifer's like, well, fuck you too.
Oh,
no, I'm listening to you, but I'm waiting to see what Sai's gonna write back because we're talking about is Sai Snoke, and I'm like, oh, so we can cut him in half.
And then he said that if we strike him down, he'll become even more annoying. Sorry. But I liked what you said there, Jen. Sorry. That just was bad timing.
I would never laugh or interrupt Jennifer. I think y'all are just very, very insensitive.
Thanks. I enjoyed when the bus backed over me there, Sai. Thank you. If my co-host would indulge me for a moment, we talked about in the back channel when we were planning this episode who I was going to be on, and Sai mentioned he's like, I'm fucking writing notes for this, and Jen said the same thing, and I think Ray, I don't know if you actually wrote them down, but I know he's got notes. He's looking for them now.
Yep.
I wrote out kind of a comprehensive thought just to kind of wrap things up, and if, like I said, if my co-host would indulge me for just a moment, just kind of read this off.
If we disagree with anything, can we scream wrong?
No, please just don't do that right now. Can you just wait? Like, give me like 2 fucking uninterrupted minutes, okay?
You lie,
you liar. All right, so here we go. Sai is Snoke. No. Okay, so Disney now owns Fox, and the first thing I thought about when I heard this, of course, everyone's like, "Oh, hey, we can unify the Marvel universe and everything." The first thing I thought was, I wonder if we're going to get the Fox fanfare back in front of the Star Wars movies. I don't think it's going to happen, but that was the first thing that ran through my head. And then more importantly, even more so than the Marvel stuff, is they now own all of the distribution for the original Star Wars movies. And unless there's something else tied up, legally, technically, there should not be a reason why we can't get the unaltered original trilogy. Now, Sai, you did post the thing, and I read it, and they talked to Kathleen Kennedy, and they said it's not a technical issue, it's not a legal issue, it's more of a choice thing. It's the creator, Lucas, said, this was my final vision, this is what's out, and she's trying to respect that. So it may just be something that we have to wait for until a certain time when maybe we'll get it. And who knows? Once again, Disney has been very good about letting the movie industry, the companies that they buy do their own thing, but it may be one of those things that they need to step in and say, listen, we need these movies. And here's why.
Spoken.
Here's why. And I thought it was funny because the comment you posted on that side was that quote from Kylo Ren. If you have to, break with the past, kill it if you have to. Talking about people who are just like, oh great, we're still not getting the original movies. Trekkies have been divided for a long time. You talk to a Trekkie, they may like everything. They may like the original series. They may be into TNG, DS9, or a lot of them, some of them, just the books. There's lots of different types of Trekkies out there. And they're okay with it. If you talk to a Trekkie, they're like, I'm into this, I'm into that. And they'll talk about what's similar, but for the most part, they're okay with it. The problem with the Star Wars original trilogy, though, is those people who are fans of that don't have a home. It's almost like they're ghosts that are they're just coasting through the rest of the Star Wars universe, and they have no place to latch onto. They can't just go buy the original trilogy that they watched as a kid and sit down and watch it, and that's their part of the Star Wars universe. And I think they need that. They need that home. So I really think we need the original Star Wars trilogy more than anything right now, because we need to give those original those people who just like the original series, we need to give them that home, but we need to divide this fandom up. It's time for the Star Wars fandom to be split officially. I love Transformers. I always have. I mean, I never kept any of my Star Wars toys. I've kept almost all my Transformers stuff. I've got tons of Transformers stuff behind me. But I like the G1 stuff. I never liked the Japanese stuff or the anime stuff or anything like that. And I've tried liking the Bayformer movies, and I just don't. And I had a conversation with a woman earlier this year, and she saw that I had the Decepticon symbol on my car. And she said, oh, you like Transformers? I said, yeah. She said, well, do you like the new movies? And I said, no, not really. And before I could launch into my tirade about that, she said that she really likes these movies. And she started explaining why. And she told me she likes them because they're just fun movies. You go see stuff blow up, and there's lots of cool special effects and everything else. And the whole time she's talking, I thought to myself, you know, I would honestly rather stand here and listen to this woman talk about something that she likes that I don't, than to stand here and talk about something that I don't like that she does, and not necessarily try to convince her just because. Why do I want to spend this time being negative? I would rather, even though I don't agree with her, I would rather hear her talk about something that she likes and is excited for and is energetic about than to be negative about it. And so that was kind of a big thing for me this year. And right now, it's not okay to be a Star Wars fan if you don't like the original trilogy. And it's not okay to be a Star Wars fan if you don't like the prequel, or if you do like the prequels. That's not okay to be a Star Wars fan and to like the prequels. And if you go and stand in a line for one of these movies or at a Comic-Con, and there's 3 people in line and they all have Star Wars shirts on, I can almost guarantee you, if someone says they like the prequels, someone else is going to turn around next to them and then begin to tell them why they're wrong and for liking the prequels. And if you say that you really enjoyed the Thrawn trilogy, that you thought it was the best Star Wars books that's ever come out, someone's going to turn around and say, well, you know, they're not canon anymore.
Yeah.
We need to be okay with people liking everything in this universe and be okay with that. Sai, you once told me last year that maybe Star Wars isn't for me anymore. And you know what? That's fine. I know you've kind of changed your opinion on that, but I also think that's bullshit. And the thing is if you really care about Star Wars, if you completely don't care about Star Wars anymore, you don't care about watching the old movies anymore, you don't care about the toys, you don't care about collecting anything, you don't care anything about Star Wars, then yeah, Star Wars probably isn't for you anymore. But Star Wars is still for you, though. Star Wars, at least the original trilogy is. And I know some of the games are, and some of the toys even. And we need to stop expecting that. And we've talked about this. We need to stop expecting, if Star Wars is not what we want it to be, we just need to let it be what it is.
Yeah.
And if we don't like that part of the universe, that's okay too. We should not have a problem saying, I'm a Star Wars fan. So am I. Well, what do you like? I like the original trilogies and I like the new stuff that's coming out, but I don't really care for the prequels. And if that younger person goes, I just thought the original trilogy was slow, I really like the prequels and I like some of this stuff, we don't need to sit there and tear each other down. We need to say, okay, this is what I like. Did you like that part as well? We bitched when The Force Awakens came out because it was too much like the original trilogy. We bitched when Rogue One came out because it was just fan service.
And that movie was fucking garbage. It was the worst movie ever made. I was
And now we're bitching that The Last Jedi is too different from what we're expecting. And it's because everyone's expecting something different. Your Snoke and Rey theory we're wrong. Get the fuck over it. Yeah. Star Wars cannot win at this point. It doesn't matter if the movie comes out and it's just like the original trilogy or it's something new. Someone is not going to be happy. And in the end, it's just a movie. It is a very important movie franchise. It has changed a lot of things about the way we live and the way we do things, but it's just a movie. I lost my dad earlier this year. My dad's heart stopped for 10 minutes, and I technically lost my dad. Every nurse that came and saw him and doctor that came and saw him afterwards told him he is a miracle. There is no reason he should have walked out of that hospital, and he did. So the idea of spending what time I have on this earth bitching and tearing other people down for something they like, I know I'm going to fall into this trap because I'm not perfect, but I'm not going to do it. We need to be civilized with each other. We need to have conversations. And if we disagree, that's fine. But Star Wars fandom needs to be different things to different people. Let us turn to the fellow Star Wars fans in line with us, discuss that which we have in common bond, and omit any words of hate with what we disagree. It's time to split the fandom into subgenres and be okay with those we are not into. P.S. No one killed Star Wars. Not Disney, not J.J. Abrams, and not George Lucas. If Star Wars is dead to you, then bury it and move on. Quit trying to poison the well for the rest of us. And the final thing I have to say on this is a quote that you brought up earlier, Ray. And it's probably one of the best quotes in the movie, and it's from Rose. Don't fight what you hate. Save what you love. I really think we have got to split this up and start being okay with liking different parts and not tearing each other down. I love what we did tonight because we're all clearly on different points. I love the movie. There are a few things I didn't care for, but for the most part, I really like the movie. I really, really like the movie. And I know y'all are on different planes of it, but you know what? We never tore each other down. We never degraded each other. We poked fun at each other, but I mean, we're friends.
They just laughed at me. That's fine though.
I really feel bad for how y'all treated Jennifer. That's all I'm saying. Like, I don't know why she puts up with y'all. Yeah, I mean,
somebody understands.
I hate you guys. Forget everything I said.
He's like, I just made a beautiful speech.
Well, that's how it goes.
We love you.
That is our show for the week, ladies and gentlemen. We're not even going to do picks or pans because we are running so late. I know people have to get to work and everything tomorrow. We will not be back until after December 30th. Please go on to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating. Check us out on Google Play and Music. You can find us at epicallygeeky.com. You can check out the show whenever we record it live on YouTube. Just one real quick thing. If you watch this show and actually get all the way to the end on YouTube or anywhere else, if you want to leave your comments, your theories about Star Wars, what you thought about the movie, we love to hear them, unless it's going to be hate. And I'll be honest with you, if you're just going to spew hate, I'm going to delete it because
I have a channel for that.
I'm done with it. Cy has a channel for that. That's absolutely right. Speaking of Cyrus, where can we find you on the internet, Cyrus Martin?
Video Game Virus, or just look up Cyrus Martin and follow the trail of burning bodies or whatever. I don't know. You'll find me.
Ray, where can we find you online?
Epically Geeky is probably the best spot. So,
Jennifer, where can we find you online?
Twitter and Instagram at Het's Gonna Be Me.
And you can always find my wacky adventure online at Optimus Gene on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We will see you after the New Year, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night.
Live long and prosper.